This is Who is the Red Queen? Let me just make sure that that music isn't too loud. There we go. I descended through a starry sky. My long blonde hair and red cape flew wildly as I looked at the ground below me with my blue eyes. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end, I was falling. Where had I gone? Where could I go? As if I were forgetting something very important, I fell down, down, and down through a sparkling, shining darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I must have been chasing after someone, after something. Like a girl whose curiosity was piqued by a rabbit with a watch, I was falling, 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 down, 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 again, again, again. This endless well seemed to lead everywhere, yet nowhere at once. Either the hole extended very deep, or I descended very low. Was I truly even going downward? Perhaps this was all a dream, a fever dream, or in more words, a fantasy that would be as soon forgotten as it was had. I held just one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Now then, just how long was I supposed to keep falling? The air brushed past my fingers, my cloak ruffling upward. A quiet humming breeze caressed my cheek. As if I could hear someone's voice. A pleasant voice, a woman's voice. I strained my ears for whispers in the wind. Alice, what time for madness? Without a bit of fear or vertigo, should you not have focused on topics more pressing? Like the darkness or the light, or how you couldn't awaken from this dream. But even now, you were just falling, falling, falling. What does it matter? With a thump, I came upon soft grass, and the fall was over. Not a bit hurt, I forced myself to my feet. Up above my head, the firmament whence I fell had not a tear in its blue canvas. Up above my head, the firmament which I fell had not a tear in its blue canvas. Down about my eyes, only familiar unfamiliar surrounded me. Oh boy, some of this writing. I started on an exploratory stroll. Soon, I stumbled upon a rabbit who looked like a girl, or a girl who looked like a rabbit. Perhaps the correct answer was that she was both a girl and a rabbit. Okay, so it's not just an illusion. We actually do seem to be through the looking glass here, as it were. She had white hair and floppy rabbit ears, pale skin and purple eyes. Her hair was tied into two low ponytails by white ribbons, a clock pin adorning her bangs. She wore gloves, an oversized blue coat with golden accents, and a red vest over a dress shirt, tied with black ribbon. She also had khaki pants tucked into boots. Oh, she's wearing khakis. She looked quite scared as she stood in front of the forest clearing. She was even holding her hands to her chest. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. "Excuse me." Calling out to her caused her to jump. Where was this place? Why was I here? How could I leave to return home? I thought of what to ask her, but she recognized me as soon as I spoke, so my questions were lost in my mouth unasked. She looked to me with troubled eyes. "Alice? White Rabbit? Have you seen Her Majesty? Do you know where she's gone? Where she could go?" "Her Majesty, the Red Queen, must be taking a vacation of sorts. I only wish that she would have left this little rabbit a note. I'm in a bit of a panic, you see. The land can't run without its queen." She then took on a distracted look. "Please let me know if you catch sight of her." I nodded. Who this Red Queen was, I had not a clue but a tingling déjà vu. Still, my acceptance of the request let the White Rabbit breathe out a sigh of relief. Just as I prepared to pose my own questions, she straightened her back in surprise. "I'm afraid I have to go. I'm going to be late." The White Rabbit dashed off. "I wanted to ask some questions." "Never mind that. Follow her, Alice." Although I chased her with only a moment's pause, when I turned a corner, she was nowhere to be seen. There was only a forest path before me. I found myself in a garden meticulously kept. There was a large white gazebo in the center, with a table and chairs for tea. Tailing the rabbit, I barely dashed a few paces. I hadn't realized such a place was so close by. Rather, I hadn't realized I had run this far. A conjecture tickled my mind that this world I fell into was a magical place, one with paths that pointed to one way but twisted to another. What an explanation, much more far-fetched than me not knowing where I was running. I took a moment to catch my breath. Glancing around, I began my walk about the garden. Flowers and greenery all around, but not a person in sight. This place was beautiful. I wanted to meet the person who made it. Not quite a gardening person myself, I still appreciated a pretty place and felt a swelling excitement to explore what sights could be seen. A reminder of reality then dampened my joyful curiosity. I wanted some answers, a way out and back home. As pleasant as dreams were, one had to be able to awaken from them before they turned into nightmares. Whether this was a dream or reality had still yet to be seen. Step, step, I walked around. Hop, hop, I peered over the bushes. Soon enough, I discovered the heart of the garden, where one might sit for tea. I spotted a white-haired girl in the garden. To amend my previous thoughts, wouldn't it be right to say that I rather also appreciated a pretty person? Her hair was long and reached her shoulders, her skin pale and her eyes a light purple. She was also adorned with a regal blue and white dress that was so long it hid her feet. Her expression was quite distant and calm. I noticed bandages wrapped upon her right hand, which was slightly clasped over her left in front of her. Frivolous thoughts flew from my mind as our eyes met. Her gaze seemed to beckon me over, so over I went to speak with her. She opened her mouth to speak. "Are you enjoying my garden?" "The garden is quite beautiful." "The gardener will be happy to hear that from you. However, if you have come here now, you should be searching for something. We should first introduce ourselves." She gave me a sad smile. "I am the White Queen." Just like with the rabbit, for reasons unclear to me, I already knew who she was. Here, that should be as good as a name. "Your Majesty, my name is Alice." She frowned. "Don't stand on ceremony, Alice. I am not one you need to speak with particularly respectfully." "Welcome to my garden in Wonderland." That sad smile returned to her face. Wonderland. I tasted the word on my tongue. I can't remember why or how I'm here. Not this garden, but Wonderland. Once again, she frowned. I was falling, and I couldn't remember why I was falling. I was simply falling until I fell no more. I'm sure I've forgotten something very important. That pained smile returned. You needn't force yourself to remember. Some things are better left forgotten. Perhaps it was fated for you to come here. Perhaps something is missing that you must find. Well, the Red Queen's missing. This world must appear like a place of dreams. You should find the Red Queen. The missing queen whom the White Rabbit mentioned was the Red Queen. Then came a troubled look. I waited for the White Queen to continue. She hesitated to speak of the Red Queen, as if the elusive royal would appear like a ghost behind her as she spoke. I tried to imagine what sort of person the Red Queen was. She She will let you return to your own reality. When you meet her, you should be able to find all of the answers you are seeking for. As for where she is, that is for you to discover. Do you dislike her? At first, she pursed her lips, as if troubled again. Then came that somber smile. That's a difficult question, Alice. So she's like that? I'll let you judge the Red Queen. You might learn something new about yourself. Shall I head off to find her now? Her face lit up a bit. Why not stay for some tea? Of course I'd love to, but it's not quite afternoon tea time yet. She smiled, this time much happier. A later time then. Certainly, to have tea outside of tea time wouldn't do. That smile softened into a fond one as she lowered her lids. I won't keep you for too much longer, Alice. I'm sure you will be able to find that person soon enough. Until later. Later. I waved goodbye to the Red Queen and departed from her garden. Glancing back, I saw her gaze linger upon me. That poor smile of hers had turned somber again. I stepped onto a twisting path in the forest. I didn't know which way to go to find the elusive Red Queen, turning left and right. To find a queen, I thought to seek a castle. However, the rabbit said that the queen was missing, so unless the rabbit had also forgotten something very important, the queen shouldn't have been at the castle. The Red Queen, she seemed like a troubling person. The way the White Queen's face froze, tongue stuttering along, at the topic of the Red Queen made me wonder, was the latter queen a tyrant or a fool? The tutor at home seemed to like to talk about kingship of that sort. To me, either or neither were fine. After all, who were the peasantry to affect the mood of a high queen? I hummed and walked along with a skip in my step. Just as I reached a rhythm in my stride, I kicked a little something. An animal? That threw me off my beat. I slowed to a plod, my mood a note dampened. Soon I heard the chatter of a girl a few trees away. Seeing not much civilization here in the forest, I followed the voice of the girl. Although she was chatting, I heard her voice alone. Oh dear, I believe we found the Mad Hatter. I passed by a few bushes and soon enough found a tea party in the middle of nowhere. At a table set before a tree sat the girl. The white-clothed table was littered with all sorts of tea-time things, from a towel with cookies and cupcakes, a rubber duck and a cake with knives in it, pitchers with dozens of tea tags, and stacks of dishes. In the center, there even lay a green vase with a dead, plucked-apart red rose beside it. Some petals sat in the water. The girl had long pink hair with uneven side bangs, pale skin, first eye red and second yellow. A smile was on her features that contrasted with her eye bags. Her outfit was just as chaotic as the table. Upon her black trench coat was a loose dress shirt tied with large purple ribbon. She also wore checkerboard purple pants and white lace-up shoes. On her gloved hands sat two hand puppets, a white hare with a yellow straw hat and a red bow tie, and a grey dormouse with a little pink flower perched by her ear. But most glaring of all was her large top hat, wrapped haphazardly in purple ribbons, and a piece of paper taped to it. "Hello there, Alice. What did you come here for?" Her chatter ceased. Her mismatched eyes pierced through me in its place. I noticed a little fang in her mouth as she opened it. "There's no room here at the table, so don't take a seat. No room, no room." The girl gave a wide grin, as she wont to do frequently. In fact, it was rare the smile was wiped off her face. She moved the puppets on her hand, a sleepy mouse and a mad hare. Looking right to left, I could barely see the ends of the table set for tea. One person in such a large space conversely, she seemed almost lonely. "There's plenty of room, Hatter." Her smile shrunk a bit. To make my point, I took a seat in a large armchair across from the Hatter. The chair stunk of flowers, as if to clear away the shadow of an unpleasant previous sitter. I sank back into it comfortably. Then I kept sinking, before I jolted back up with a shallow gasp. "Three's plenty of crowd. That's rude of you to say, Alice. Not very civil of you to sit down without being invited, either." She granted me a cheeky grin and a wink. "But whatever. Let's just treat you as our extra guest for tomorrow." "Not today?" "Aren't they the same? Yesterday, today, tomorrow? Every day is never a day different. But since I'd rather not deal with it today, we just treat it as for tomorrow. Dormouse and March don't mind." "You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. She wriggled the puppets on her hands as if to explain everything. 1 was herself, 2 was the first puppet, 3 was the second puppet. "I'm scared, Alice. I might be blind." Her mad smile became a mad grin once more. "That's a side effect of being Alice. Don't worry. It's just a side effect of being Alice." She sneered. The pitch of her voice warped. "Don't mind their comments. She is Dormouse and he is March Hare." She paused as if waiting for me to greet the animal puppets. I waited. She waited. Her smile did not falter. In fact, it only widened in anticipation. The silence of the conversation bored me, so I relented to the Mad Hatter's wordless request. I was their guest for tomorrow, so a polite guest I decided to be. "Well, hello there." The smile became ordinary again. I was scared she was deaf as well. "Hello there, Alice." It seemed whenever she made the puppets talk, she often took on a more neutral expression and kept her mouth closed like a ventriloquist. Between the puppets, I much preferred the Dormouse. If a puppet could fall asleep, she looked as if she was about to do so. I felt some pity, as that meant the March Hare would speak more. "What were we talking about before? A riddle? Maybe it was this one. Why is a raven like a writing desk?" "Do you have an answer to that riddle?" "You're no fun, Alice. Relax and have some wine." "There is no wine." "You were invited for tea tomorrow, Alice. It's the obligation of the host to offer a guest a drink at tea time." Maybe she was an alcoholic. "Hatter, I can't in good faith call this time of day tea time, nor can I call it alcohol tea." Details. Add some butter." "It'll be tea time eventually, so it's tea time now. We're having tea, so it might as well be tea time, don't you think? What did you come here for, anyways?" Although I couldn't quite say that I had come to this tea party with a goal in mind, I figured I might as well tell her. "I'm searching for the Red Queen." Her brow contorted as she took a sip of her tea. Puppet sat down for just that moment. Dumping the tea away and rinsing the cup, she poured herself another drink. Her mismatched eyes narrowed. "Oh, her." The Hatter placed her lips to the rim of her teacup and stared at me. A minute passed, all 60 seconds consisting of staring, before she ducked down under the table as if to find an item and popped back up again. Her expression was back to its usual state. "Stay and chat for a moment. I'll help you with a little something regarding Her Majesty." The Hatter poured me a cup of tea and slid over a plate of sandwiches. The Hatter's smile became wide. The plate hurtled towards me, forcing me to hurriedly grab it lest its sandwiches spilled all over my lap. Luckily, the cup of tea arrived much more calmly. I took a taste, finding Earl Grey. "Is it tomorrow already?" At the very least, it wasn't time for afternoon tea. If I'd known I would have tea now, I would have stayed a little longer to have some with the White Queen as well. It was not that people couldn't have tea outside of afternoon tea, but it was the principle of things. If people drank tea any time of day, they would drink it all day. I sipped some more, enjoying the citrusy flavor of this black tea. "Today is tomorrow for yesterday, don't you think?" Unless she doesn't think. That would have been rude of you to ask. "She's just normal." "Orthogonal?" "I'm certainly sitting up quite straight. But regarding the Red Queen, do you have some news about her?" "I'd say I have some business with her instead. Something to do with meat and flesh, and all the other red things that a Red Queen might have to deal with." "Aren't you a Hatter?" She grinned widely. Yes? Not a butcher. Unless your meat is made out of hat. While talking about all things unappetizing, I took a bite of sandwich filled with an ambiguous color. A milky sweetness melted in my mouth. I tasted some sort of fruit inside. Maybe it was mango, or kiwi, or strawberry. Satisfied with the pleasant sweetness, I took another sip of tea. This tea and these sandwiches are Sorry, that was the wrong voice. This tea and these sandwiches are delicious. Thank you, Alice. You made them? Compliments to you, then. The Hatter grinned with a wink. Well, such flattery. You've put me in a good mood. I guess we can go ahead with Her Majesty's matter. She smiled as if laughing. In fact, she's been sitting here with us the whole time. I sat up even straighter in confusion. Glancing around, I saw no queens in sight. Not a human, nor animal besides the two of us here. The Hatter rolled a chair over and pulled a cloth off from over the chair's holdings. Ta-da! Nausea ran up my spine. On the chair sat a chunk of meat dressed up in tattered human clothes. Still dripping red, the flesh seemed to ripple, undulating. Was it rotting, or was it still alive? My head spun as I squinted at the thing. This thing resembled a human torso, with half a neck and chopped off limbs, dolled up with what could have been fancy clothes. This was surely human flesh. I sensed an odd familiarity to the torso, but also felt as if I was looking at it from an incorrect angle. This was the torso of a regal woman. This was raw human flesh. This is the Red Queen? The Hatter's eyes narrowed again, brows furrowed, but still smiling. An inappropriate question flitted across my mind. Could we consider it as sitting as if it didn't have legs? I supposed yes. I thought you said you weren't a butcher, Hatter. We definitely couldn't consider this a hat. Having just eaten, the strawberry taste in my mouth turned to a meaty texture like raw pork. I could almost taste sweet, rotten fat. I swallowed. Her expression returned to normal. I wondered if the Hatter wanted to make me sick. The Hatter gave a wide smile. Yes, I'm a Hatter. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Too distracted by the surprise, the feeling of my fingers almost felt like wet ground meat, even though I was sure that my digits were still attached to my palm. The image lingered uncomfortably behind my eyelids, not with disgust, but with another inexplicable emotion, a negative one for sure. I looked at the torso again, and it seemed so still. I saw exposed bone and a shattered trachea. The cut must not have been wholly clean, made with a blade sharpened not quite enough, yet so also dulled not quite enough. Yes, this was the Red Queen. I knew not why I knew, but a voice in the back of my head told me that this was the Red Queen, a part of the Red Queen. I'm afraid Her Majesty can't speak right now. The Hatter stirred her tea and popped a bite-sized sandwich into her mouth, munching happily. She sneered. Ah, don't look like that, Alice. The Hatter doesn't dismember Her Majesty. Yes, Hatter is innocent. Since only the Hatter spoke up in defense of herself, I wasn't particularly inclined to believe her. But whether or not she did kill the Red Queen, the end result sat before me. Yo-wo. Thank you for that, bud. What should I do now? What should I do now? I murmured my uncertainty at this dead end aloud. She smiled as if nothing was wrong. What do you mean? All you have to do is find all of the other pieces. If you have anything you need Her Majesty for, all you need to do is put her back together. Have you forgotten, Alice? That sounded mad. So mad I wanted to laugh. This is Wonderland, after all. All I needed to do was find the pieces. That was right, Alice. That was all you needed to do. It would either be terribly simple or terribly hard. I hoped that no one had fed the Red Queen to the pigs or minced her up for a patty. Regardless, all I really needed was a head and the torso if I wanted to talk to her, to ask her about the secret to returning home. May I take her body with me? The Hatter narrowed her eyes. Alice. I think this is the Hatter talking. Alice, you're a civilized girl. Did you really want to lug around a piece of meat like you were some meat seller, selling to the cannibals? The Hatter winked cheekily. No. That wouldn't be fair, don't you think? Once you find most of her parts, let's just say the limbs, I'll give you a special present and help you out again. She patted a box off to the side of the table. The box was just big enough for a cat or a cake or maybe something like a hat. Of course, don't peek or try to find out what the present is. It wouldn't be a surprise like that. I'll be very, very upset if you cheat. I wonder if the head is in that box. With that smile on her face, I couldn't see her upset. Only muddled sincerity came through her voice. The Hatter's mismatched eyes wandered, looking distracted as she did so. Now then, I've got to grab something off the stove before it burns. The Hatter got up from her seat and walked away. Here, I was alone with the Red Queen's flesh. It was missing all 4 limbs and a head. So, to make her whole, I would need to find 5 parts. I hoped that my search would be easy. Oh, we've got a decision. Let us make a save. First save. Seeing as the Hatter was nowhere in sight, I contemplated a decision regarding that curious box on the table. Okay, decision time. Do we sneak a peek in the box? The special secret present box that we were told not to peek at? Or do we listen to the Hatter and behave ourselves? I'm thinking that maybe the head is in that box. So I think we should probably peek. I tiptoed over to the other side of the table and surveyed what was around. I couldn't help but feel the headless slab of human watching me, but I ignored the Red Queen's body, knowing that I would be seeing it often enough. Looking over my shoulder, I ascertained that the Hatter had yet to return. I moved to find the present box on the cluttered table. The Hatter hadn't tied up the box particularly at all. I could open it and close it as if it had never been disturbed. I could open and close it as if I had never disturbed this mysterious prize to begin with. I cracked open a small gap so that nothing could come flying out. Nothing escaped from the box. Instead, I heard a strange strangled noise from whatever laid inside, a gurgling, drowning voice that caused chills to settle on the back of my neck. In one go, I took the lid off of the box. Inside was a head, a bloodied head. The head seemed so familiar, but I couldn't quite make out the face, as if the box had been jostled. The hair had become so matted with blood. The exact hue of its light hair color was difficult to make heads or tails of. I squinted. Spinning. The whirl was spinning. A sharp pain burst through my temple, and I rested my palm on my head to stop a growing, pulsating headache in my skull. I reached out a shaking hand to adjust the head in the box. Step, step, step. Footsteps interrupted me. I thought I only just said not to peek, Alice. The Hatter brandished a hammer in her hand, the head and face a glowing red as if it had been left on the stove. Cheaters get what cheaters deserve. I backed up, crashing into the table, nearly tripping on my own cloak. She raised her arm with a hammer in hand and... crack. Dead end. Well, and death number 1. Script scene, 9%. Okay. Load our last choice. So, as I suspected, there is a head in the box, but as I also suspected, the Hatter will kill us if we look in the box. So, we will have to listen to the Hatter for now. I shook my head. Instead of antagonizing the Hatter needlessly, I decided to take another sip of tea. I would see what was inside the box eventually. The Hatter returned soon enough. Her puppets were absent. Rather, in her hand was a hammer, glowing bright with heat. She chucked it to the side with a thump, and let the mizzle. And she chucked it to the side with a thump, and let the metal sizzle on the ground. What was the hammer for? She grinned. Does a hammer need a reason to be? Anyways, go ahead and try to find some of the Red Queen's body. An arm, a head, or maybe two. Just bring them back here for me to attach to this. She pointed to the torso. It'll still be tea time when you come back. Let's just count you as an extra guest for the next tomorrow as well. To be exact with time, now was not tea time. I suppose there's not much else to do here. The Hatter's expression dampened a bit as I responded. I looked at my empty cup of Earl Grey and lifted myself up from the armchair. For what it was worth, I quite enjoyed this odd-hour tea. Shaking my legs just to make sure they hadn't fallen asleep, I started to leave. Until later. Until later. Auf Wiedersehen. She leaned back into her chair and made a lazy wave my way. Somehow, she looked lonely. I returned to another forest path, walking forward and forward. After moving for a while, I realized I had no idea where I was going. In simpler words, I was lost. I walked around in a few circles before looking upward. Oh! The Cheshire Cat, of course. Above, I saw a cat. A cat who resembled a girl, or a girl who resembled a cat, leisurely stood on the tall branch of a tree. She had sharp, yellow-green eyes, pale skin, a cat-like smile. Her brown hair was tied into a ponytail with an orange ribbon, her two cat ears on top of her head looking quite fluffy. She wore an orange cape with 3 black stripes and a fluffy white collar, with a tattered short black dress underneath. Adorned around her neck was a collar with a bell. Her one visible arm had a shackle around the wrist for her clawed hands. There appeared to be something like stitches at the point where arm and shoulder connected. Unlike the White Rabbit, this cat, the Cheshire Cat, I couldn't help but wonder if she was actually neither a cat nor a girl, and was just pretending to be either. I met her cat eyes, nodding in silent greeting. Her grin stretched across her face as she stared right back. Sharp teeth filled her mouth, and claws adorned her hands. This was probably a cat. Cheshire. The flame that was her tail flickered, and she hopped down to meet me closer. I don't suppose you'd tell me which way I should go? Her eyes narrowed in amusement. I posed a silly question that I expected no answer for. After all, I was asking a cat for directions. Depends on where you want to go. To my surprise, I received a response. To find the Red Queen. Ah, the crazy one. Are you sure you'd prefer not to go with the nice one? The one I'm searching for is the Red Queen. All right, the Mad Queen. Then again, we're all mad around here. That is, except for Her Majesty the White Queen. She's too sad to be mad. If you're looking for the Red Queen, up, down, left, right might help. Hi, Soupy Dorman, and hi, MBH! Hi, everyone! Everyone's here today. And, yeah, we are playing Who is the Red Queen, a horror visual novel that seems to be taking place in Alice in Wonderland. Up, down, left, right. That's the beginning of the Konami code. It's up, down, left, right, BA start. Might help. The cat jeered. Self-awareness, Alice. Self-awareness. The Cheshire Cat vanished into thin air. Soon enough, she reappeared. Just go to the White Queen instead. Maybe you'll find something on the way. You know who the Red Queen is? Well, why don't you tell us? Because we actually have already found the Red Queen, so it's not a question of who she is. Well, it is kind of a question. We found part of the Red Queen. We need to find the rest of the Red Queen. She started to fade away again before popping back. I forgot to ask, how's the Hatter doing? She seems to be fine. It's still tea time over there. Me. It's always tea time with that one. A third time she disappeared, leaving a grin lingering in the air before that too vanished. This was a grin without a cat, instead of a cat without a grin. The third time was the charm. The cat did not return. I can't say I've ever seen a quat. I can't say I've ever seen a cat quite like that before. And yet you knew that that cat was called Cheshire. Then again, Cheshire wasn't really a cat. Walking a few lengths more, I mulled over the odd advice she gave. Okay, now the decision time. Do we go up, up, down, down, left, right? Or do we find the White Queen? I guess we'll first try going up, up, down, down, left, right. I can't see why we wouldn't try that. I tried to remember just what the Cheshire Cat had said, speaking the pattern of directions aloud to a beat. Up, up, down, down, left, right. I felt as if I had missed a few items, but that was all the cat had given. I backtracked to the position where I met the cat, and followed the recommended directions. Soon enough, I found myself at a crossroad. I saw no limbs nor head in sight. Left was labeled right, right was labeled left. With wrongly written signboards, I chose at random on where to go next. Every few meters, I found a new signboard, with its own quaintly marked arrow. Whether or not they led to the right place was another issue. I slowed my pace to read the signs and followed them along. Today is a rainy day. I didn't know which genius thought to put a forecast onto a wooden sign on the side of the road, but I followed the direction to go right regardless. The sky had not a drop of rain in sight. Warning, cliff ahead. As it happened, neither was there a cliff ahead. Watch out for dragons. I looked for the dragons, but the dragons did not arrive. Shameful. At some point, the text on the sign turned to insults. Fool. You don't even know who you are. Stop following these signs. How many of these will you read? I walked and walked and walked. At the end of the final sign in the chain, I reached a clearing in the forest where I spotted a white rabbit talking with a limb. She appeared a little frightened, or perhaps more concerned. Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Left arm, please. I blinked, then I blinked again. Rubbing my eyes, I saw the same image. The right rabbit seemed to be just about to prostrate herself to a living, moving arm. The arm, despite being an arm, had taken the higher position. The ground here is dirty. You needn't crawl here. Shall I take you back to the palace? Or would you rather go to the garden or to the courtroom? In fact, do you happen to know where Her Majesty is? The arm smacked the white rabbit. She frowned, brows furrowed. Although I silently observed, the arm noticed me and began to crawl over, one handful of grass at a time. It moved like a snake, like a worm, like a piece of flesh and bone that shouldn't have been able to move. Its writhing struggle sent a shiver up my spine. The white rabbit looked scared. I didn't know if I should pick it up or kick it away. I didn't either, and it reached my feet. The arm proceeded to climb my leg, up my cloak, clinging like some sort of dirty parasite, making its slow way up until I pushed past my building disgust to hold it in my hand instead. The flesh felt cold in my palm. I sensed no heartbeat at the wrist. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a liking to you. If you find Her Majesty, please return the limb to her and tell her that her rabbit did her best. I pray she hasn't met any trouble. A limb coming off isn't an everyday occurrence. She made quite the understatement. No, we're not going to speedrun this part. Yes, of course. How did you know it was the Red Queen's arm? The rabbit took on a happy, excited expression. I would recognize Her Majesty's limb anywhere. Do you admire her very much? Yes, of course. I respect Her Majesty very much. She united Wonderland into this kingdom and kept peace with a watchful gaze on the criminal populace. She is a decisive ruler and holds an agreeable worldview. This should be her divine right to Wonderland? This should be her divine right to rule Wonderland. I've heard a cat call her mad. A dangerous expression flashed through the White Rabbit's eyes for barely a second. Her smile quickly became a frown. The Cheshire Cat is a known problem element here. Her expression became increasingly stressed. If Her Majesty is mad, then such madness is in essence brilliant. Although I may not always be fated to be a favored courtier, to be an aide to her is my greatest honor. I cannot be White Rabbit without Her Majesty. Her smile returned. Yes, that is how I should view Her Majesty. I gave the rabbit's impromptu speech a short round of applause, balancing the detached arm in the crook of my elbow. The rabbit became flustered. She must also like you very much. All rulers have their dissidents and supporters. A certain man once said that a ruler was better feared than loved if she could not be both. Despite all that the White Rabbit said, I knew little more about the Red Queen. The Red Queen is the ruler of this land? What's your job, White Rabbit? Yes, she's the highest ruler of Wonderland. I deal with a little bit of everything. Administrative matters, legal matters, and the personal matters of important people. Haha, since we've met a few times, I could say I'm important, couldn't I? That's right, Alice. To my tepid jest, I received a response that made me pause. The White Rabbit took out her watch and jumped in surprise upon looking at the time, quickly returning the watch to her pocket. Is it this time already? I'm afraid I must be off again, if that will be all. Thank you, Alice. Hurriedly bowing a few times, she dashed off back to work. Having obtained one limb, I searched around for another. Before I knew it, the day passed. I looked toward the sky where the sun had begun to set. Letting out a yawn, I realized I needed a place to sleep for the night. I thought back to the parties who had helped me out on my adventure to gather the Red Queen's dismembered parts. Surely I could find one of them. Okay, well, supposedly this is the choice, but we only have one actual choice here. I headed back to the Hatter's place. The moonlight filtered through the trees and lit the table. The tea and cakes were all put away. As before, I found her at a table full of tea stuffs. She nursed a cup of tea and waved at me upon spotting me. Just in time for tea, Alice. From the sky, tea time should have already passed. Perhaps this was more like supper time, so I only flashed her a smile without saying anything. I've returned with a limb. Congratulations, she grinned. I handed her the White Queen's limb, which began to move upon entering the Hatter's hand. Holding it away from herself, the Hatter seemed to think of what to do with it next. She kicked a dog cage out from under a chair. Flicking the metal hatch open, she tossed the limb into it and quickly flicked the cage shut again. The Hatter sneered. Sit down. I'd be a poor host if I didn't let you sit. I plopped down into the armchair. This was my chair now. I glanced around and found I didn't see the two puppets that the Hatter wore on her hands earlier in the day. Where are your friends? I gestured with my hands. They've gone home for a bit. March lives all the way over there in a house with ears. As for whose ears they are, I haven't a clue. Are you hungry for rodent, Ellis? No. You say so, Ellis. She poured me a cup of tea and slid the tea, cup, and saucer over to me, nearly spilling it over my lap. Soon after came another plate. On the plate was steak and vegetables. For a brief moment, the Hatter appeared lonely. I should hope this isn't rodent, is it? She winked with a grin. It's something else. The Hatter didn't continue, but glanced over at the Red Queen's flesh. My eyes followed the path of her gaze, not spotting any steak-sized slabs of meat sliced off from the torso of the Queen I sought. I let out a sigh. Her eyes were narrowed. Taking a knife and fork, I cut the steak and moved a piece to my mouth. It tastes like beef. Compliments to the chef. She smiled. Why, thank you. We ate together. For a hatter, her table manners with the forks and knives are impeccable. But each time I thought to compliment them, she went and did something odd again. The hatter was a mystery to unravel. I don't have a place to stay the night, so I wanted to ask if you would put up with me for the night. I put up with you all the time. What difference does night make? From where I come from, people sleep at night. You got popcorn? Well, good for you, Sungats. Sleep? You can sleep underneath the table, or spread a blanket on the ground, or just sleep on that armchair you're sitting in now. Isn't sleep just when you pretend to be dead like everyone else? Is that why you don't sleep? The hatter had terrible bags under her eyes. As I doubted she slept too much, she could only have been sleeping too little. Kettle corn? Oh, kettle corn, that's great. She frowned, upset. Look at the time. Is it really time to sleep? Napping at tea time will destroy your inner clock, don't you know? Morning, afternoon, evening. Since it's old tea time, it's better not to sleep. I thought you didn't care about time. The hatter sneered. Time doesn't care about me. Are you perhaps afraid of sleeping? She gave me a somber smile. What do you think, Alice? She poured herself a drink from a bottle into her teacup. I turned to look at the bottle, which was in no way for tea. I couldn't read the jumbled words scrawled across its label, so I couldn't help but ask. Is that actually alcohol? Tea. Isn't it alcohol? Tea! She drank her tea and I did mine. The conversation turned to silence. I shouldn't have pushed and upset my dear host. I wanted to pet her head and apologize, for she could drink or sleep as she wanted. As I reached out, the hatter recoiled. There was a frown on her face. She pushed her chair back from the table, taking the chance to move away. Then she dipped, and underneath the tablecloth, rummaging through her stuff with a rustling noise. When she popped back out, she held a blanket, which she tossed my way. Her expression turned even more distraught, her frown wobbly. Didn't you want to pretend to be dead right now? Go. Go. Play dead. Catching it in my arms, I smelled a sweet scent from the soft blanket. The sky was dark. I started to feel sleepy, hugging the blanket a little tighter. I'd experienced a long day after all, so perhaps it was time to go to bed. Good night, Hatter. I wondered if she was mad, if she would respond. But she did. Good night, Alice. I leaned back comfortably in the armchair and began to sink. Sinking, sinking, sinking. Contrary to my earliest expectations, I didn't keep sinking forever. The moment I looked up at the sky, I found I couldn't sleep anymore. I didn't recognize the stars, the constellations that adorn the dark heavens. Tracing their infinite sparkles, I wondered who they stood for. I wanted to understand what was hidden past those mismatched eyes of the Hatter. While counting the stars, I eventually fell asleep. I dreamed of falling. The next day and the day after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Once again, I was walking down the forest path. Remembering that the Cheshire Cat mentioned the White Queen, I decided to give the Queen a second visit. I thought that I could easily replicate the route to her garden, having only recently been there. However, the more I walked, the more apparent it became that I was lost. I passed that tree to the right a handful times already. I was going in circles, getting nowhere closer to that beautiful garden and its equally pretty owner. I let out a sigh and chose a bush at random to walk through instead of following a path. My cloak saved me from being scratched by the leaves and branches of the bushes. I came out on the other side of a particularly tall tree and a large bird cage. Oh dear. I spotted the White Queen inside the bird cage. Behind her was a limb, a leg. She sat with a distressed expression as she looked up at my looming figure. Hello. We meet again, Alice. I hadn't expected that I would be trapped here again. I'm a little embarrassed that you're seeing me like this. I contemplated just asking for the leg and leaving. No, that would be a terribly foul thing to do, especially to a pretty person like her. Although, in a way, it almost seemed like a good idea to leave a pretty bird locked up in a cage all for oneself. After all, how would you catch her if you let her go free? Is that the Red Queen's white? Is that the Red Queen's right leg? So it would appear. To find the Red Queen, you may have to find her parts as well. Even so, she should be able to find your way back home. I'm sorry, Alice. Don't apologize. The key to my prison is atop the towering I swear to Lord. The amount of tongue twisters in this goddamn game. But how's everybody doing this today? How's everyone's weekend going? Wow, wow. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. The key to my prison is atop the towering tree. Would you help me open this cage, Alice? Yes, of course. Agreeing to the request, I walked over to the tall tree that the White Queen gestured toward. How tall it was, I couldn't say. If I angled my head and squinted, I could see the glimmering of a silver key at a high branch above. I circled the tree, the front and the back, the sides left and right. They all looked equally hard to climb. As I pondered how to scale the tree, a little bird approached. It was fat and pink with beady eyes and a tiny black beak. Chirp, chirp. With all of the talking animals and not quite animals in Wonderland, I had an inkling that this one might speak as well. Perhaps it spoke French like a French bird. Bonjour? Bonjour. Unfortunately, I knew little French. My practice had grown rusty, so much that the tutors would be ashamed. But I tried to pull out at least one more phrase. Oui, est ma chatte? Chirp. I must have said the wrong words as the poor bird began to tremble. I think she asked, "Are you a cat?" Which of course a bird would be afraid of a cat. Parlez-vous anglais? Yes, yes. Chirp, chirp. Cats? No cats, please. What are you doing? What are you doing, chirp, chirp? I'm trying to get that key up there. What are you doing, little bird? Chirp. Just having lots of fun every day. Not doing anything in particular. Not doing anything in particular. Now that Red Queen, Her Majesty, is missing, Wonderland is so much more wonderful. We can play and frolic as we want. Chirp, chirp. Auntie Bird got in trouble for breaking Her Majesty's laws, and now there's no more Auntie Bird. Chirp, chirp. I was so sad, so sad. Her Majesty was so scary, so scary. You won't tell me, right? Chirp. Chirp, chirp. You look like a nice person, Chirp. Much nicer than her. Much nicer than her. Oh, I see. I'll help you with the key. Chirp. Puffing out its little chest, the bird flapped its wings and took off upward into the sky. It flew and flew, but soon enough became tired. Not reaching the key on the tree, the bird faltered and fluttered back down. It dipped its head in disappointment. Sorry. I couldn't do it. Chirp. What? What kind of choices are these, and why can we not save anymore? I want to save. Let me save the game. Is that count as a save? I guess that's a save. Okay, so we can save here. So the bird couldn't get the key for us. Do we kill the bird or do we pet the bird? Why would we kill the bird? I feel like we're not gonna kill the bird. That just seems so bizarrely out of character for us thus far. So I guess we'll have to pet the bird. Don't worry about it. Good timing on that one, but you are correct. Pigeons are not the bosses of our lives, but that doesn't mean we're gonna kill this bird just because it can't get a key. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me with its large round eyes glittering with surprise. After the failed first attempt at the key, I returned to the queen's side. She looked fitting in the cage, pretty, like a flower preserved forever in glass. Again, I thought that she was beautiful. Really, she was beautiful. That's true, Alice. Even so, I couldn't let her stay trapped, not to mention the Red Queen's leg. I wasn't able to find a way up. Do you have any ideas what I should do, White Queen? Over there are some mushrooms. If you eat the ones to the left, you will grow. If you eat the ones to the right, you will shrink. Eat me, drink me. I think they will be helpful. Magic mushrooms? I was hesitant to eat mushrooms picked from unknown wilderness, but I felt that I could trust the White Queen. Why? I didn't know. Ha! Well, this is Wonderland, isn't it? I'd forgotten something important. The feeling of forgetting tingled in the back of my mind whenever I saw the White Queen. Finding the mushroom she pointed out, I faced a choice. There was a little yellow one with black spots and stem, and a large purple one with white spots and stem. Well, we want to grow. Why would we choose shrinking? That seems like an odd choice. I mean, I guess we can save again at this choice, but I don't see what shrinking would solve. So let's grow. One pill makes you larger, and the other pill makes you small. I ate a left mushroom and immediately began to grow. My line of sight rose higher and higher, as if I were a bean sprout. Once I stopped growing, I could reach the top of the towering tree if I reached out my arm. Fantastically, my clothes grew with me. I cautiously pinched the silver key and removed it from the tree, holding it lightly so as not to break it with my now giant hands. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. I was much too big. The magic will wear off. In the meantime, would you accompany me to chat, Alice? That may be for the best. I would have to wait until I reverted back to my original size to open the door. Is the invitation for tea sometime still open? Yes, always. Then shall I ask about what sort of foods and tea you like to drink to see what I might expect? You lurk? Well, thank you for the lurk, Astrid, and also thank you for the spank. Thank you for spanking Peter. What's your favorite tea? White tea. This lady. Of course the White Queen drinks white tea. Do you prefer black tea still? How did you know? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point, the conversation turned to flowers. Wait, we're just gonna let her sidestep how she knew that? Like, how did we previously know the White Queen? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point, the conversation turned to flowers. Perhaps it was that she felt ambivalently on floral teas. You are welcome to visit the garden anytime. I couldn't find the way to the garden today. Perhaps getting lost had been for the better, as I found her in the end. Yes, that happens when I'm not there. But Wonderland should lead you to my way if you think of me, at least for you, Alice. I have nowhere to be but the garden. She paused, looking at something in the distance that I could not see. Would you believe me if I told you I can see the future? I looked her in the eyes and ascertained a calm surety. I didn't feel that she would lie, yet I couldn't quite believe her words either. I wondered what I had forgotten, what I was doubting. Rather than answer, I decided to play along. Can you change the future you see? Why do you ask? Otherwise, isn't it lonesome? I won't believe that the future is predestined, but the solitude of such a power would also be the fate of a queen in this world. Her words sounded contradictory. Even for the Red Queen? Especially for the Red Queen. The White Queen spoke of fate as if still trapped by something more than just the birdcage. I couldn't understand. We talked a little longer. I felt a tingling up my arms and began to revert to my usual size. The world warped and finally popped back into its proper place. I twirled around to check that all was well. Identifying no issues, I picked up the key that I had dropped to the ground at some point and inserted it into the lock of the White Queen's birdcage. With a smooth click, the cage unlocked. I opened the door. The White Queen stumbled out of the birdcage, her legs still wobbly from sitting in the cage for so long. She let me hold her steady until she rebalanced herself. Thank you. You're welcome. I ought to return to the garden now, but my invitation is always open, Alice. I'll see you later, if you're willing. She handed me the Red Queen's leg. It was dressed in a black tight, the shoe red and tied to the ankle with a ribbon. Freed from the birdcage, the White Queen departed to return to her garden. After wandering around some more, I returned to the Hatter's place with a second limb in hand. The day came to an end, but the Hatter's clock remained at tea time. She was arguing with her own hand puppets about some sort of song, some rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. The hair on her hand was flung back and forth. I waited it out, seeing as she started laughing by herself halfway through. Apparently, she couldn't sing. Her expression was a bit lonely. Once her shoulders stopped shaking, the Hatter turned to me. She gave me an awkward smile. Alice, you voyeur! I see you've brought a second one. That one is 1, and this one is 2. Good work. The Hatter clapped her wrists half a dozen times. The Hatter clapped her wrists half a dozen times, as in, because she's got the puppets on her hands, so she can only clap like that. Alice, won't you join us for tea again today? Hatter made scones. It has butter. Thank you for the invitation, Dormouse. Another lonely but happy expression briefly flashed on the Hatter's face. Upon my response to the Dormouse, she immediately brightened up. If it would make the Hatter happy, I didn't see why not to play along. Leg. Setting aside her puppet friends, she extended an open palm toward me. I proceeded to commit lèse-majesty by tossing the limb over the Hatter's tea table to her. I took a seat in my armchair, seeing her clumsily catch it in my arms. At my seat, there was already a cup of tea prepared. With her free hand, the Hatter opened up the dog cage and retrieved the other limb. Do you need any help with that? She winked. I have everything under control. Without another pause, the Hatter stuck the limb into the Queen's torso. The flesh sounded with a squelch as the muscle, skin, and bone began to knit into place, with a red line. Still, a red line remained where the limbs connected. I took a bite of a scone. As the Hatter said, it had butter. The Red Queen's incomplete body twitched, something squirming under the skin. I spread some clotted cream and jam onto the scone. The perfect blend of sweetness made me wonder where she got the jam. It was very red. Ow! The Hatter became disgruntled, frowning. The single arm grabbed at the Hatter, smacking as it squirmed. The Hatter kicked the incomplete Red Queen. Rendering the limbed hunk of meat paralyzed with shock, the Hatter forced its limbs off. A bit of blood and something else dripped onto the ground. Gripping the writhing limbs in her hand, the Hatter popped open the dog cage door with her feet and chucked them in. With a thud into the cage, the arm and leg went. Good scones. Thank you. You mentioned that you also had some business with the Red Queen, Hatter, but what is it? Something to do with red, something to do with flesh. I realized I didn't quite know. She gave a wide smile. A personal matter, Alice. I'd prefer you don't pry. I was the one gathering the pieces, so of course I wanted to know. Then again, the Hatter could just as well have put the corpse together herself. A better question was how she obtained that first chunk of meat, but I doubted she would answer. I was curious. After all, not every Hatter keeps the Red Queen's dismembered body at their table, much less treats it like you do. The White Rabbit is searching for the Red Queen right now, you see. And the Red Queen is right here. At least part of her was. No one likes the White Rabbit. Why didn't you tell her, Alice? Well, I didn't feel like it. The White Rabbit was boring. I had the feeling that telling her anything about the corpse sitting with us wouldn't help me much. You've saved me from the dungeon. In that dark, dank place, a hat's not enough for the cold. Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. I see. Let's commit lèse-majesté together. Surely the Red Queen will forgive us for piecing her together. I much prefer this Mad Hatter. No, Alice. This is much closer to blasphemy. We have no choice but to beg the wrathful god for forgiveness, don't you know? I couldn't help but think of Osiris, the judge of the dead, cut to pieces by his own brother. Even a god king, rather, a god queen, could be chopped up and rendered helpless. The tutors would be proud of me for remembering. Haha, is that so? It'll be good working with you, Hatter. Oh, did I? Do I go back? Haha, is that so? It'll be good working with you, Hatter. I offered a hand to shake. Seeing her hesitation, I expected her to reject my outstretched hand, but she instead grabbed my finger with an expression filled with uncertainty. I thought that she would try to pull my finger off. However, she only gripped me weakly and shook it up and down before letting go once more. She was a bit gloomier for the time after. Night fell and another day ended. What did I dream of? I must have forgotten. Only 2 more limbs and a head remained. I continued on my adventure to collect the Red Queen, so that I could finally meet her and find her way back home. Step, step, step. I walked around this upside-down world. In between my explorations of Wonderland, I chatted with the Hatter, and she made a certain inquiry. What do you want to go... what do you want to go back to at home? What indeed? Alice, what was waiting for you at home? I counted off my fingers. 2 sisters, 2 cats, a large empty home, books, and tutors. With my sisters, Laurie and Eddie, I was not particularly close. The older Lorena and the younger Edith, intelligent Lorena, and precocious Edith, they seemed to live in their own world apart from Alice. I preferred the cats, a white cat and a black cat. The former was cute, a little beauty like the White Queen, and the latter, a little devil. As for the books, our library seemed endless. We had so many books that I could drown. Maybe a pile had collapsed on me and I was dying, suffocating under the pages so terribly that I fell into Wonderland. The tutors would be so mad that the books were ruined. I winced at a phantom stinging in the back of my legs. The poor ruler, I could already see it go red. That was my world, a boring, normal, plain world, where the animals didn't talk and corpses didn't move, where I hadn't needed to think of much at all. I was Alice, and that place was Alice's place. I fiddled with my fingers, grasping for the correct expression to wear. A smile was always safe. I'll be off then. Step, step, step. I traversed about this place, which was not Alice's place, my place. Once again, I was in the forest in the daytime. I was walking around searching for clues for where the next limbs or even head could be when I heard the sound of conversation. I followed the noise and found the oddest pair, a rabbit and a cat. The rabbit seemed upset. On the contrary, the cat was grinning deviously. Ask the Hatter. The rabbit made an indignant smile. Hatter? That mad Hatter? She's more cuckoo than the bird. A real nuisance. The only silver lining is how now that the rat and hare are out of the way, she's become more of a recluse. My ears are still ringing from that time when we had to pull those peasants off the street to sing for royal gas. She sneered. The courts have stopped working. The kingdom's falling into anarchy. We've got filth on the ground left and right. Up and down, too. The rabbit became angry. Shut up, you damn cat. You fucking criminal pretending to be a cat. If we weren't so busy, I'd send the cars to chain you up and throw you back into the dungeon where you belong. The cat grinned as she taunted the rabbit. Scary threats from a rabbit. Listen up. Your name is still on top of the list for execution, cat. Don't think you can do whatever you want. Huh. Now I've got to... Alice! The white rabbit made a puking sound. The blood drained from her face when she met my eyes. She looked terrified. The Cheshire grinned. Hello? Did I interrupt a conversation? No, not at all. Hello, Alice. I just hope we weren't too loud. The cat and I were just making some small talk. How have you been? Well enough. And you? Well enough as well. Well. What about me? Well, are you well? It depends. I'm a cat. The cat's punchline met silence. Are you two friends? The rabbit frowned. No. The cat grinned. Yes. Our circles rarely overlap. We happened to meet and talk today by coincidence. The cat made a mock frown. I'm hurt, Bunny. I thought we were friends. Cheshire Cat, please refrain from giving me unsolicited nicknames. The cat smiled. Bunny? You two seem to get along. No, not really. They didn't seem to get along at all. I just liked how the white rabbit thought that she could lie straight to my face about what they were talking about before. Lie. That was what the Queen's courtiers ought to do. Hilarious. After a short three-way chat, the white rabbit pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Ah, I have an invitation for you, Alice. The white rabbit reached into her coat, retrieving an envelope from an inner pocket. She held it out to me. The Duchess has invited you to her endless party. If you're interested in attending, it is and will always be held at her manor. I took the outstretched invitation. When is it? She gave a smile. On and on and on indefinitely. Ever since Her Majesty has gone missing, the Duchess has been holed up in her manor, holding a grand ball, day and night. If I didn't know better, I would think that she was celebrating. The rabbit frowned as she looked into the distance. But she wouldn't be so foolish. I see. Thank you for the invitation. Tracing an oddly familiar wax seal upon the envelope, I fiddled with the invitation in my hand. I wondered where I had seen it before. The rabbit smiled. I live to serve, Alice. What a relief. A burden has lifted off my shoulders now that this invitation is delivered. If it pleases you to attend, I hope you have an enjoyable time. The Duchess certainly knows how to throw parties. And the nobility of Wonderland knows how to party. I tucked the invitation away. The rabbit smiled, a distant look in her eyes. Is there anything else? Her attention returned to me. No, that is all. I won't bother you any further. Please excuse me, Alice, and have a nice day. Bowing her head a few times, she made her way away, and soon was out of sight. And off she goes. The cat's eyes narrowed with a grin. We were talking about something too. That white rabbit, she only cares about the Mad Queen. Her grin became mischievous. I've got a little secret about the Red Queen. Just a bit of gossip. Do you want to hear? Certainly. I was in a bit of a stump trying to find the rest of the Red Queen. The rest of the Red Queen. The first two pieces came along quite easily, as if delivered on a silver platter. But now I had to find some more clues. I waited for the cat to speak again, glancing at her flickering tail. She gestured for me to come closer. When I moved in, she flicked me sharply on the forehead, causing me to recoil in surprise and stumble back. I never said I would say. Try finding me later, Alice. Before I could respond to her provocation, she disappeared in the thin air, leaving a grin floating before me for a short moment more. That is, if you can. With a flicker, the grin too vanished. What did the rabbit call her again, Alice? I ran my fingers through my bangs and sighed. Looking around, I was alone on my search again. Search for Cheshire or check out the party? I say we check out the party. I don't see why we search for Cheshire immediately after she just, like, disappears on us. This party sounds like a real swinging place. So let's go there. I took out the invitation that the White Rabbit had delivered to me. Running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint on the wax seal, some sort of animal, I tore the invitation open. Inside, I found a card and read it to myself. Alice, the Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her ball. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. The Duchess's estate, the manor. You are required to bring a companion. Flipping the card over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines in the map and somehow pinpointed where I was in relation to the manor. I held nothing to bring to a party, nor did I have a readily available guest. I pondered about whether or not I should go, seeing as that I could put it off indefinitely. But with the Red Queen's part still missing, perhaps someone there would know. A duchess should have been close to the Queen, for example. That, at least, the tutors had mentioned. As for +1, my mind wandered over to my very few human acquaintances in Wonderland. Do we ask the White Queen to come, or do we ask the Hatter? Let's make another save. I feel like asking the Hatter to come. So, let's ask the Hatter. I returned to the Hatter, who was having her usual tea time, and invited her. Hatter, won't you accompany me to a ball? She sneered. I rather won't. She glared at me with that displeased smile. Alice, did you have to request it that way? I'll trade you a favor for a favor. If you'll come to the ball with me, I can do something for you. Take some pity. Alice has no friends. No friends, no pets, no siblings, no one, none. Do favors have flavor like butter? I would say I have at least one of the above. What sort of favor would you offer me, Alice? A limb, a tongue, a heart? Alice, you don't have anything that I want that I can't get for myself. She momentarily grinned ordinarily. A cuppa for your sandwich, Alice. Here's the salt. I passed her the pepper as she slid the salt and cup of tea over to me. Fiddling with the salt container, I tasted a spoonful of humiliation atop my tongue. I have no friends. She says she has no friends. She really has no friends. The Hatter pouted. You have no friends? What am I? March's old favorite buttersticks? Her glare bored into me. Well, if you would. If you would. She says it. I would really rather not. A hatter doesn't matter around the nobles who just like to flatter. I'm no good with nobles. After all, I'm just a hatter. For a second, her voice dipped. Her expression became somber. Hatter is better off here, all alone. I barely heard the Hatter's low words. She sneered again. And it's also still tea time. How can we go off to a ball when we've yet to finish afternoon tea? She stirred her tea, watching as I slumped into my seat and played with the salt. Then the Hatter gave me a lonely look. But I rather appreciate you. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Alice, just why did you find that slight smile somewhat charming? Clink. The sound of my teaspoon hitting against the rim of my cup broke me out of my thoughts. I looked down. Putting the cup to my mouth, I took a sip and found that I had put salt into my tea. Terrible. She smiled. I'll accompany you, Alice. When is this ball? Any time. The Hatter sneered. It's not very nice of you to say it's not tea time here, then. Not very good of you to be biased against tea time, don't you know? We finished off our tea and sandwiches. After a few more sips, I sneakily dumped the salted tea behind my armchair. The Hatter put the dormouse and March Hare away. After lingering at the tea table for a few moments longer, we got up to leave. She waved goodbye to the puppets, hesitant, as if scared of leaving this place. Then we used the shoddy map on the back of the invitation card to find our way to the Duchess's place. After a walk, we arrived at the manor. It resembled a large white castle, towering against the day's sky with pointed roofing. The Hatter shook her legs, as if just that bit of walking had tired her out. Then again, the bags under her eyes conveyed that she hadn't slept well for a while. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Halt! Please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the Hatter before returning it to me. The guard gestured and led us inward a few steps through the entranceway. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Please provide an arm. Uncharacteristically, the Hatter said nothing the entire time to the guard. She warily looked at his sheathed sword and shuffled behind me. You may not enter without providing an arm. Okay. Well, this is quite a decision. Let's save. And then, I guess we could try offering our own arm. I wonder if this will result in a death. This guard was getting annoying, repetitive. Please provide an arm. Would this arm suffice? I extended my own arm to the guard, goading him to take it. If an arm the entrance required, then an arm I would provide. The guard nodded, leading us to the side and leaving me to keep the arm outstretched above a table. He retrieved a clean, shining blade. The blade glittered with the sun like the moon. That is a very weird sentence. The blade glittered with the sun like the moon. Slash. With a clean cut, my arm came straight off. It fell to the table with a small bounce. A sharp pain hit me the next moment. I stumbled back into the Hatter, gritting my teeth as blood rushed out of the wound and dripped red. I could still sense my arm, a phantom pain attached to the bone. I clutched at the wound. Although my still attached hand never touched the flesh itself, it soon became covered in blood as it shook near the stump. A doctor arrived with some sort of medicine that she applied to the wound. Ghostly chills covered the hurt till it turned to button aching. Once the bleeding ceased, she bandaged my injury, warning me not to remove the bandage before I reobtained my arm. Shaking her head about Mad Noble, she left. Alice, could you reattach such a limb? You weren't a lizard, but a mere human. A little light-headed, I shook off the question. Alice? The guard retrieved my arm, placing it into a sealed box before handing it off to another servant, who took it away to a safe place. You may enter, esteemed guest. The guard began to lead us in. Alice, why are you like this? Why, what are you talking about, Hatter? We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. Looks rather empty. The floor was wide, open, and remarkably polished. Golden chandeliers hung above, the light reflecting against the floor. A few chairs sat between the large rounded windows, A painting sat on the farthest wall. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guest. Okay, now there's some people. A quartet performed in the front. Food sat at the tables to the side of the room. All around were faceless people dressed up like clowns. Faceless people. They were uninteresting people. They sent a few glances our way as we came, without much fanfare. Already, I didn't like them. Perhaps it was their beady, pig-like eyes. For all that they were faceless, I saw only clowns and swine. Ugh, this is some harsh words from Alice. I approached a group, thinking to gain some information. Hello. Hello to you as well. The guest seemed weary upon seeing me, but showed a displeased reaction upon laying eyes on the Hatter, who had reluctantly followed me along. And the peasant. Which one was it? Ah, the one with the vermin. Where are your raggedy little friends? The rat and the hare. The Red Queen's little pet was happy to see them gone. The rabbit's always been like that. Rather than the rutting, she likes the cutting. Ugh, an animal in such a position. I really do not approve. Her Majesty likes it. Well, she's gone now. You shouldn't say that. Speak of the devil and she will come. The devil indeed. 'Tis a shame that the White Queen's always been a fool. A pretty bird, but as a ruler? The Red Queen liked her well enough, and, certainly from the rumors, she's done something quite pleasant. For us, you mean? Don't jinx it. The group stage whispered amongst themselves. Oh, stage whispered. The group stayed. That's going to be hard for me to say. The group stage whispered amongst themselves as they pointed to the Hatter, like they were looking at a spectacle. The Hatter at the time was simply staring off into space. Is that lunatic glaring at us? This is the problem with peasants. It's staring at us. My, how uncomfortable. I can't believe the thing rolls around with the animals. Tut tut, the animals are all gone. That's the least that Her Majesty has done for us. In her petty red reign of petty red reign. Ugh. That's the least Her Majesty has done for us in her petty red reign of pretty red reign. Now, let's get away from the filth. The stench of vermin is unbearable. I must ask the Duchess about who can be let into the ballroom. A servant passed by with a tray full of champagne. One of the guests removed 2 flutes from the tray and offered me one with a slur in her words. Have some alcohol. Did you have some business with us? No. I shook my head and turned away. A drink should only be shared in pleasant company. Let us take our leave from these people, Hatter. Chitter-chatter, chitter-chatter. I noticed the other guests making snide comments on the Hatter and giving her the side-eye while stepping back from me, of all people. Saying those things to my person, someone who was mine, my Hatter, they deserved punishment, capital or otherwise. That was right, Alice. What a shame that I had no such power. The rabbit did call us a very important person. And, I don't know. Seems a bit harsh to be wishing death upon these people for just being dicks. Mind you, they are the aristocracy. So maybe capital punishment is fitting. The Hatter looked rather upset. We moved to the sides where the food was, seeing as few people lingered by refreshments for long. The 2 of us picked up some cakes and snacks. A smile finally came to her face while we ate, albeit a sad one. As I tasted it, I couldn't help but feel that the Hatter made better food. Better food? I couldn't help but feel that the Hatter made better food. A tingly sensation spread through my body as I ate. Hatter? What is this? My voice changed pitches as I talk. At one moment, I sounded squeaky as a mouse, and the next as low as an elephant. The Hatter grinned. Ah ha ha! Me too! Playing with the odd refreshments, we found ourselves speaking like animals. Woof. Meow meow. Woof 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 woof. I wondered what she said. She looked so pleased, as if she had made the world's greatest joke that had just gone unheard. Next, we tried the pudding. Discomfort filled my heart, as if something dirty was coming out of each pulse, with each squeeze of the ventricle pushing blood through the aorta. The Hatter looked a bit upset. She began to frown. I hate this. She frowned even deeper. I hate you. I don't even know how to deal with a bedlamite dog like you. The Hatter sneered. I really, really hate you. It's Red. The Red's fault. I'll kill. They're dead, so I'm alone. The Hatter blocked her words and stuffed a cookie into her mouth. She looked rather flustered. Woof. What needs to be done has to be done. What needs to be done has to be done. But once it's done, we should certainly purge. It's been such a long time. I've got to punish that little bird. And your head will make a good decoration. It's not a worthy cell inside. You're a lunatic and a fool. Putting a hand over my mouth and clenching my jaw, I shut up as well till the distortion in my heart disappeared. The Hatter frowned for a moment. I didn't mean to say any of that. The pudding must have twisted our words. The Hatter smiled. I as well. Had it, Alice? As we experienced the strange food, the other guests continued to mingle and dance. This was a ball, so ball things they did. The music stopped, along with the chatter. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. She was a featureless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything. Not disfigurement nor beauty. She existed as the Duchess, but could not be seen. She was only perceived. Tonight, we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. She gestured, and a servant behind her came up with an item hidden under a red cloth. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as everyone guessed at what could be hidden underneath that would make the Duchess consider it special. We are holding a chess tournament, the usual game that ends when the king has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth. All around, the guests let out a collective gasp. What, you may ask? Why, it could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. There was a severed leg, the Red Queen's left leg. On the looks of the limb, it could fit perfectly onto the torso's stump, sitting at the Hatter's place. Like the previous leg, it too was dressed in a black tight and adorned with a red shoe that had a red ribbon. May the best strategist win. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With a matchup list created, the tournament started. As I made my moves with Hatter, I thought back to all the chess I had played for the tutors. They were Oh my god, my words are so twisted today. It always happens like this on Sundays. I suspect it's something to do with my medication. Whenever I forget to take my medication, words become so much harder to say. I lose that fine motor control. They would be relieved at least that I hadn't forgotten anything and everything. Losing each time had been a painful ordeal, so I too was glad that I remembered. The Hatter had a brilliant strategic mind. I watched as she flung her queen into a crowd of pawns, only for it to be eaten alive. She had a twisted smile on her face as she did so. Most of the time. We made our ways to the finals. We met with the last opponent not at a table, but in a cleared out space in the ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. The Hatter was grinning. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up stood 1 1/3 dozen soldiers, dressed up in black like chess pieces. What is this? Why, human chess. Chess is an imitation of bloody war. In this land without war, we must take steps to make life more interesting. That is what our dearest Majesty proclaimed. One of you two have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. I exchanged glances with the Hatter. Even now, I couldn't understand what went on in those eyes, but I had already decided. Maybe I didn't want to see her potentially get hurt, as no one here cared for the life of a Hatter. Odder. What a thought to have. I rather liked her. I will take the role of a piece. Ooh, do we become a king or do we become a queen? Do another save. I guess we should become a queen? I chose to take the queen's piece role, for the queen had the greatest power on the board. I donned a fake white crown and was given a sword. The Hatter narrowed her eyes with her same smile. Our white pieces shuffled in and took their positions on the board. Soon enough, the chessboard was set. A human-sized version of the strategy game unfolded. The Hatter started with the first move. Clang, clash. One by one, pieces on the board fell, almost like dominoes. The Hatter was frowning. Perhaps knight to a... No. A piece on the board cannot speak. We are the players, and you are but a game piece. Finally, the queen came into play. The game had proceeded smoothly. The Hatter did not use me much, I sometimes darting wildly back and forth between my knot arm and the board. Blood splattered across the board. Sorry, I am just absolute mumblemouth today. Blood splattered across the ballroom chessboard as some pieces hit their opponents harder than others. The servants had to move them off the floor. Click, clack, the sound of chess. Today, it was clang, clash. The Hatter frowned. Queen to f6. At the f6 position stood the Duchess's black queen piece. The hulking female knight, with a cartoonish black crown, eyed me as the Hatter spoke. I moved across the board, readying my sword to knock her down. My one hand gripped on the sword felt weak. The loss, even if temporary, of an arm threw off my balance. The blood loss left a lingering lightheadedness. I attacked only for my sword to be thrown out of my hand by the black queen piece's parry. The Hatter frowned again. To make the match a show, the pieces had pretended to act out a fight each time one was to be taken down. The black queen took that mistake as my loss in the confrontation, deciding that the move must have belonged to her. She lifted up her sword and cut me right open with a great slash. Oh! The Hatter's frown deepened. This is unfortunate. The black queen stabbed me again in the stomach. With a squelch, the blade pierced in and exited out of my back before being pulled out along with things that weren't meant to come out. Gah! A gurgling noise escaped my throat. I felt chunks move up my windpipe as I choked into my mouth. This iron, fleshy sensation surely wasn't a good sign. I grabbed at my abdomen as the black queen stabbed me again. Black spots filled my vision. I slumped to the ground, unable to get back up. Red pulled out from underneath me onto the checkered board. Alice, you were just gutted like a fish. Is this how our game ends? Dead end. That was death number 4, so we've missed 2 deaths already, apparently? Interesting. And we've seen 34% of the script. Okay then, we will load the last save we made. And we will be the king this time. I had a feeling that being the queen would kill us, because, as they described, the Hatter always sends her queen in to get murdered, so... But I hadn't expected our lack of arm to come into play. I chose to take the king's piece role, for the king was the end of the game. While I was given a fake crown and a sword, I was not a soldier. Our white pieces shuffled in and took their positions on the board. Soon enough, the chessboard was set. A human-sized version of the strategy game unfolded. The Hatter started with the first move. The Hatter had a wide smile. Clang, clash. One by one, our white pieces on the board fell, almost like dominoes. Hey, Dusk of Neela! Perhaps don't deploy the queen. No. A piece on the board cannot speak. We are the players, and you are but a game piece. Pieces came dangerously close to me. The sound of metal filled my ears. Warm blood splattered over my face as an overzealous knight beheaded our last bishop. Then guts spilled over my shoes when the Hatter took out the knight who had cornered me. I've never been much for strategy. The Hatter yawned and rubbed her eyes. All our pieces had died, taken off the board, with but a smear on the ground, aside from the pawns, whereas the Duchess had taken far fewer losses. I had a feeling that we were doomed. Alas, but what can we do? No speaking! The game continued, and by mad luck, the Hatter made her way to the other side of the board. Promote it! Let that pawn turn into a queen. That's how it works, isn't it? I watched as the Hatter turned the game around with her remaining ex-pawns. The Black King was surrounded. The Hatter sneered. Checkmate, Duchess. Then we cut him down. The Duchess clapped her hands in congratulations. The servants cleared the floor. Wiping it down, they made it once more sparkly clean, as if red had not just been spilled in a human facsimile of a game. One came along with a wet towel for me to wipe away anything that had gotten on me during the match. Congratulations, you truly are a pair of master strategists. With this, the competition has concluded, and you two are the winners. Would you like to take your prize now? The Hatter shaped her lips into an O. Yes. The Hatter bobbed her head up and down rapidly. The Duchess gestured a servant over. Our dearest Majesty's leg. Do take care of it well, as she comes back and has you punished for disrespecting the crown. She took the leg from the servant and handed it to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. The Duchess left again with her servant following after her. She seemed to have enjoyed the chess tournament. Just as quickly as she left, the chess setups were cleared away. The guests returned to eating, drinking, and dancing. Let's leave. She made a lonely smile. She had no intention to stay. Neither had I, having accomplished the unexpected boon of finding a piece of the Red Queen. We maneuvered through the manor, eventually finding ourselves in a long hallway just as regal as the ballroom. A red carpet rolled out along its length. We found a servant to leave and were redirected outward. He retrieved the sealed box without entrance fee and handed it over. That opened the box for me. Inside lay my arm, and a small jar of the same medicine from before. My arm still looked fresh. I unraveled my bandage to find an unchanged wound. Popping the arm back onto the stump, I felt a strange knitting sensation at the connection point. I applied some medicine to the arm. With a squishing sound, my arm was reattached. The only remnant of its severance was a thin pink line that slowly faded into my skin. We exited the building and came to a garden. We had taken a wrong turn. It was an elegant garden, with plenty of flowers and triangular hedges. In the center was a fountain. Looking around, we spotted an exit at the far end of the garden, and the Hatter made a move to leave. I called out to stop her, extending a hand. We didn't have the chance to dance. Won't you give me the honor of one dance, Hatter? I won't. Ah. Maybe just one with you, Alice. She made an awkward smile. I can't dance. I'm dexterous with my hands, but not so much with my feet. Hatter doesn't fit well with these things. Isn't that a problem? She hesitantly stretched out her hand, fingers hovering over mine. She looked somber. Don't worry, let me lead. I took her hand and we danced, humming in place of an instrumental quartet. I led her in steady steps, ignoring the way she stumbled over my feet. Left, right, left, right. Perhaps this was the most enjoyable dance I'd had yet. I twirled the Hatter around. She was so light. Alice. Hmm? She still had that lonely, awkward, somber expression on her face. Alice. Hatter? You might not be so bad after all. She made an expression like she wanted to cry. I rather like you, Alice. Only Alice. I rather liked her too. I gave her another twirl and she let go. I reached up my fingers, but she moved her hand away. I had her hop back with a skip and a spin. Thus, she stood by her lonesome. Close your eyes, Alice. I did as she said. I felt her roughly stuff the leg into my arms. I heard a faint tapping noise, reminiscent of footsteps moving away from me, and then there was nothing. I waited and waited and waited. Alice, how long did you want to wait for her? I waited a long time, clutching the leg in my hands. When I opened my eyes, the Hatter was nowhere to be seen. Did she leave me behind? Although I walked around the garden, she was nowhere to be found. I decided to leave as well. Taking one last pass through the garden, I made my way through the exit. I was back on the forest path. A sudden vertigo struck me. I must have had a long day. I reasoned as I held my hand to my forehead, whilst trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed-up pit of mud. The discomfort in my heart returned. I leaned back against the tree to take a break, looking upward. Eyelids flickering, I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. The sun was beginning to set, orange hues beginning to enter the picture. My free hand, propped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the sky. It was a starry night sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disorientated I was, I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed that I still had the limb I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to a sitting position and saw her. Huh? We get to choose who we see? Or maybe this is a dream. Well, either way, there's a decision to be made, so we will make another save. So, will we see the Hatter or the White Queen? Well, I'd rather think that we would like to see the Hatter. I believe, because, well, the Hatter just left us all alone, and I'd like to know that she's okay. Looking around, I found that I was at the Hatter's place. Ah. I started to talk, only for my throat to feel like sandpaper. Each time I blinked, my eyelids grew heavy again. A chill ran through my whole body. Uncomfortable. That was all I could say I felt. Although I had experienced quite a bit since coming to Wonderland, I had not thought I would catch a cold. Don't speak, Alice. You're burning up, so no tea for you today. It must have still been tea time, for it was always tea time. However, today, the Hatter decided to put the tea aside, even at tea time, for the sick me. She brought a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked. Coughing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that had spilled. If you drink too quickly, you'll drown. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the cup firmly until she knew that I wouldn't drop it. Drink water slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off of the stove. Seeing that I had the cup in hand, she hopped off in the direction of the stove. I thought back to when we first met. At that time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer, so I hoped that she would bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited, setting it aside once I finished. She returned with a bowl of porridge in hand. Setting it down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I instinctively opened my mouth like a baby bird. I can eat myself. I would rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed me porridge, spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put the bowl away and gave me another cup of water. While letting me sip the water, she wiped away the sweat on my forehead. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I've never quite had. My words drifted off into silence as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. Hatter, the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter. And, I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed a cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Then, into the realm of hypnos I fell. After a few days of good rest under the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. Thank you, Hatter. What for? Don't linger too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Ellis? Haha, so I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. I was back on that forest path. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Onward I continued with my search, so that she could send me home. So wait, did that happen or was that a dream? I thought that it was kind of like a dream, but maybe it did really happen. But they didn't have any artwork for it, which I guess was fine, considering we could choose between two, either the White Queen or the Hatter. I suppose it would have been a lot of effort to make art just for one scenario. I was on the forest path. I thought back to the Cheshire Cat's taunting provocations. Thinking on her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I returned to the endless tea party. I had a quick chat with the Hatter to find out. Are you acquainted with the Cheshire Cat? The Hatter's eyes narrowed. Cheshire? The Hatter moved Dormouse as if she was upset. She's scary. The Hatter moved the March Hare as if he were exasperated. Always up in the trees. The Hatter smiled as she spoke. She's usually around the northern end of the forest. The cat always says she has business, so she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her. The Hatter grinned. Yes, we're acquaintances, but we're definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We're low on seats as it is. And then she sneered. Next thing you know, you'll have to be chopped up to fit in a teapot. Ta-ta. The trio of one gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the Hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here, and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight. No cats nor others. After a while, I reached a place with two signs pointing opposite directions. One read cliff, and the other not a cliff. I let out a chuckle that they were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past the bushes blocking beyond their arrows. Ding-ling! The ring of a small bell into my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire Cat? I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves of the trees around me. I heard a soft rustling noise, but when I looked toward the sound, I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward, and the world shifted. The air was pushed out of my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down onto me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been a cracked egg on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. The blur, the Cheshire Cat, filled my spinning field of view. She wrapped both hands around my neck, digging in with her sharp nails. Her left arm flicked in and out of existence as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure around my throat. Her grip tightened, drawing blood. I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. I tried to pry her fingers off with my own. My twitching hands clawed at her constricting grip and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of the flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. I just barely forced her off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch a breath. She grabbed my collar, grip on the left, flicking in and out, and slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. What? I couldn't even ask why she was doing this as vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself, get to my feet, and roll away from her somehow. Which way? Not a cliff or cliff? Time for another save? Well, we did see signs before that were deliberately mislabeled. So I'm thinking we go for the cliff. I tumbled through the bushes in the direction labeled as cliff. The signs around here had nonsense written on them many more times than not. As I expected, our chosen direction had no cliff in sight. I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time, I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting while hooking my foot on hers. Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise and made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light like a cat. I'm waiting for an explanation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. The Cheshire Cat frowned. I hadn't realized who you were before. My cloak may have a hood, but you've seen my face many times already, Cheshire Cat. She scowled. Wonderland's twisted up in time. She jeered. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad, all mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? Now that's the question we have to ask. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I'm Alice, that is all. That was my sole truth. She returned to a frown deep in thought. But who in the world is Alice? An outsider? Temporary visitor? I've just about figured out the most important part. If you figured it out, I don't suppose you'd tell me. You are... She grimaced in pain. She pressed her hand against her head. Then she took on a jeer. Somehow you're much too similar to the Mad Queen. Oh, that Mad Queen. You've been looking for her, but let me tell you this. She's been dead for a while now. Although, I think you should already know. She scowled. I can't put it into words for some reason. Maybe it's just the way you look at the world. But you're definitely the same type of person. In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling? Some delusion that I might be the same as someone whom I've never met? Or, as you say, someone who is long dead? She stared at me with determination. This world can't afford another Red Queen. Not even the chance of one. She vanished, taking the chance in our conversation. Criminals need to be locked up. I looked all around, hearing the faintest sound of her shackles, telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence. So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die. Her voice danced through the air formlessly. You have no qualification to enact your form of justice, Cat. That really is just like her to say. She appeared behind me and attacked again. We fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. The cat favored her right arm. Rather, her left arm acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on it. Her handicap forced her to falter more than my now numb shoulder did me. She fought like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal. Biting, clawing, and all the likes, she came at me with the intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. I punched her straight in the face, causing her to bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of red. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again, and again. Doing this with my bare hands wasn't exhilarating as much as it was just a matter of fact. I decided that I preferred this nuisance of my... I had decided that I preferred this nuisance out of my hair. I was just hit with, like, a sudden flashback to how awful fighting is. Like, if you've ever been punched in the face, it's not a pleasant feeling. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. The arm felt familiar, as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. Alice, that cat was also a thief. I wanted that arm. Okay, do we tear it off, or do we ask for the arm? Because apparently... I mean, she's attacking us. Why would we ask for it? I feel like we should just tear it off. I grabbed hold of the Cheshire Cat's right arm and pulled. The cat screamed. The arm creaked. Be quiet for a bit, won't you? As I pulled, I heard a myriad of tearing and ripping noises, sounds that human flesh should not make. She screamed herself hoarse, shaking under me. I felt her erratic gasps. I figured that she could barely breathe. Her eyes dilated, crying. From the gurgling I heard from her throat, I guessed that she must have bitten fully through her tongue. I dug my fingers into the arm even more harshly to wrench it off. Slowly but steadily, I removed the arm from the cat through brute force. With a final squelch, the arm popped off from where it had been attached. The cat also stopped making noise around that time. Blood splattered all over me, dirtying my clothes and the limb I sought to retrieve. Really, a little annoying. The red dripped over the grass around us. I sat on her prone body for a moment to rest. Looking at my handiwork, I wondered if perhaps I had gone a little far. However, it was better to get trouble out of the way. I wobbled to my feet. I kicked the body, ascertaining that she was unconscious. Holding the arm in one hand, I dragged the cat along the ground. I left 2 trails of red behind me, one from the cat and one from the recently detached limb. In the direction labeled "not a cliff" was a cliff. What a convenient garbage disposal spot. I hauled the cat's body as close to the cliff's edge as I could, placing the arm on the ground to free up my hands. I lifted her and flung her off the cliff. An issue was disposed of. Wow, we are cold as ice. We fucking murdered that cat. Now, there was no more Cheshire Cat. I picked up the severed right arm. The limb appeared different now that it was detached from the cat. It more resembled its fellow limbs, sans a regal torn sleeve. A broken shackle about its wrist fell off without me having to do a thing. Alice, Alice, do you recognize this arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. A jolt of pain burst through my head. I do not know why I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. I stumbled, clutching my head. The world warped and blurred around me. I felt dizzy looking at the distorted landscape, or perhaps my dizziness itself distorted the landscape into an undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. A raging headache pounding at my skull would not subside. Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh, the ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe falling. Alice was falling. The world turned to darkness, and all I heard was laughter. Thump. At some point, I made my way back to the Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limb I had just obtained. At least, from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have been only recently that I had taken the limb from its past owner. I didn't know. The Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dog cage with all the others. She grinned. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. Oh, so I have. You look terrible right now, Alice. Again. Her eyes narrowed. Like us. Like us. I'm tired. The Hatter smiled. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere. Not unless time grows back its severed head and walks away. Don't you think? We can always talk a little later. Thank you. I slumped back into my armchair, sinking into the oddly scented cushions. She sneered. "Good night, Alice. This may be the last." Then she looked a little lonely. "I almost feel a little sorry, but Dormouse, March, I won't stop." I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterwards, over the raging white noise of my headache. My vision blurred, my eyes becoming watery. Eyelids heavy, I fell asleep. Then I was dreaming, falling into the dream. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I dreamt of a throne. A dark and terrible throne, so horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne, but I on the throne was arrogant and happy to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. A beautiful person. Yes, that person she loved was a beautiful person, so fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly tear off that person's wings. But her love was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, Alice, you were exactly this person. No, I wasn't, was I? As I opened my mouth to speak, blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk. I could not taste. Even though red dripped down my chin, I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out. Blood choked me. Gasping in nothing but liquid, I grasped at my throat. Alice, I was drowning in this dream. You were never happy. Never. When I awoke, I forgot all that I dreamt of. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disorientated, I nearly rolled off my armchair in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, rubbing the bridge of my nose. I blinked. I blinked again, chasing away a haze. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. In the meantime, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake, much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. It was a cake with cream and fruits, two-layered even, with flowers and pictures carved out with the food ingredients. I could only call it a pretty cake. She grinned cheekily, winking. "Just in time for tea, Alice." As I got up from my armchair, the Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. She stared at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. The Hatter made a devilish wide grin. Flick, the flame glowed on the head of the match just for a few seconds. After settling the candles, she began clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. "Happy on birthday to you. Happy on birthday to you. Happy on birthday, dear Alice." A terribly offbeat, off-balance song she sang, and her voice warped as she said my name today. A certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. She sneered. "Happy on birthday to you." I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song with a small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. "What is this for, Hatter?" Today certainly was not my birthday. "Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You get a special prize for bringing me all 4 limbs, Alice. Since it's not your birthday, it must be your unbirthday. All 364 days of the year. All 300... blah, 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 blah. I messed that up. All 364 days of the year." Picking up a knife, she cut through a slice of cake and slid it over to me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon enough, she poured me a cup of tea that too came rushing over. I noticed a hammer on the table, right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The calming scent of the tea wafted to my nose and mixed with sweet milky cream. The celebratory cake slice looked so charming, I almost felt ashamed to eat it. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. "This is my favorite. This is my favorite." After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate, the Hatter placed a box before me. She was still sneering. "Open your present, Alice." "Chop it open." "Smash it open." "Any way you'd like to." I surveyed the box. An odd and plain box, just big enough to store an animal. From the outside, I could not tell what might lay inside. I cracked open a small gap, afraid to disturb what would be hidden inside. Shadows blocked my vision. I saw nothing, but I heard a low gurgling, drowning sound, and a strange and strangled voice, one that sent a chill rolling up my neck. Throbbing headache hit me again. In one go, I flung the lid off. Inside was a head. A bloodied head. Huh? A head. A woman's head. A girl's head. A head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face. A much too foreign face. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, even as the world seemed to shift around me. Her matted hair was blonde. Her bloody skin was pale. But her unfocused eyes were not blue. Rather, they were red. Alice, you knew who that face belonged to. Alice. Whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet to back away, only to fall back onto the armchair from my loss of equilibrium. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine. Just almost. I clutched my neck and touched my face to make sure that I was still here. This was the Red Queen. This was Alice. This was a severed head, Alice. Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from this so-called prize that the Hatter had given me. Blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. How terrible. I reached a trembling hand to touch it, but it wasn't my place to try and close those eyes or put her to peace. The head was still moving, twisting with a squelch and a squish. Its wet, ragged sounds of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I jerked my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away. Now aren't you glad that you needn't find Her Majesty's head? As if laughing at me, as if she didn't truly mean that, with an odd tilt of her voice as she spoke of the Red Queen, the Hatter confirmed the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flinging the dog cage open, and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, they began to flail and grab at the Hatter. This time, she was prepared and grabbed the hammer. Hatter? With a pair of loud bangs, she hammered nails from the corpse's hands into the Red Queen's chair. Red dripped to the ground. The hands twitched, the body writhed. A ghostly pain ran up my arms as my stomach churned. I felt dizzy. What? Hatter? I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing through my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice, that was why you were worthless. Ask something. Anything. I touched my face to see if my lips had curled up without me thinking to. Didn't you want me to leave this place? Ha ha ha! And now you found the Red Queen. If you have something you'd like to talk with her about, I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over, chair scraping on the ground with a hideous squeal, and stopped only when I sat face to face with the headless, shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it onto the body. The skin and meat deformed, contorting till the pieces of neck met exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together with something unnatural crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse as her throat connected. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized that I hadn't ever asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon an answer the same way I had found all the limbs. This was the Red Queen. Alice, this was me. The requests I had been pondering on, the wishes to get back home, the want to ask her for help, they all flew out of my mind. Because this wasn't right. The face I was looking at, battered and bloodied as it appeared, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words, yet making no sound besides the hollow whistle of a crushed throat, the Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Her tongue was missing, and we had to do something about that. Okay. So we're gonna get some answers now. Where is the tongue? Or cut out Alice's tongue. Are you offering your own tongue, Sungats? Is that what that lick emote is for? I guess... I mean, the normal thing to do would be to ask where the tongue is before we get to the point of cutting out our own tongue. I feel like asking where's the tongue is probably the less dire option. You need yours to taste? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbling with a pulsing pressure in the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Hatter, where is the Red Queen's tongue? I didn't want to hear her voice, so I tore it out and fed it to the dogs. The Red Queen wasn't complete without a tongue, although she squirmed in the chair, causing the nails to creak. It seemed like she didn't truly have her soul. Alice, you were so close. Corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. That should mean I shouldn't bother searching for it then. What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face, and of the various gossips I overheard on the ruler. Alice. Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. She was sneering. What do you think? She frowned at my silence. Let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was Your Majesty now. As the Hatter spoke, she appeared frustrated, angry. A long time ago, in this corner of Wonderland, there lived a group of 3 friends. A mouse, a hare, and a hatter. We lived far away from bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats, and they did mouse and hare things. Once, we'd been dragged off to perform like clowns for visitors to this kingdom. But only that once, for Her Majesty hadn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran the court of law. A strict queen, some called her. A mad queen, some whispered. A tyrant, most could not even dare to say. I think this story should be predictable, don't you? You were called into court one day. The reason? Maybe only to be judged. She proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. I, for some reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing a thing. Thrown into prison and starved, only just that much. When I came out, the streets were filled with newly spilled blood, and 2 very familiar heads rolled my way. Crows feasted on carrion, only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's cards. Do I need to explain further? Perhaps you really are blind and deaf. Ha! Dormouse and March Hare are dead. For what? For the sole crime of offending our world's tyrant. And so, Hatter has been all alone for a long, 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 long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen. The Hatter's smile disappeared. She looked disappointed. But she went and up and died. Who let her get away like that so easily? She sneered again. You, who are the same entity as the Red Queen, I can't let you go, don't you understand? She glared at me. Hatter, for the sake of my revenge, you have to die, Alice. She spun the hammer in her hands, her face devoid of mirth, as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with her mismatched pair. This is my justice, Alice. Goodbye, Alice. Goodbye. She raised that hammer in her hand above her head. Why did she look like she was about to cry? Crack. Then, I was falling. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end, I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if going back in time. I re-examined the pain of having my head caved in with a hammer. I was going mad. A wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter, rolled down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland once more. Alice? The first person to greet me, once more, was the White Rabbit. I grabbed at my head, only to find no injuries, no red. No longer able to differentiate between dream and reality. I questioned if I had merely been hallucinating the whole time. Then, I was falling again. I died again. Alice? Each time I fell, I came back down. Alice! It became a hazy world, a distorted world, a world that was beginning to lose its colors. Time and time and time again. Falling, falling, falling. I seemed to revert the hourglass and turn back the hands of the clock, each time going into another past. Before I knew it, the rabbit had changed. Your Majesty? She was a bit more polite. Your Majesty. Perhaps a bit more cruel in her eyes, a bit less restrained with the darkness in her gut. She called out to me each and every time. Your Majesty. The rabbit was my starting point, my saving point. Falling, falling, falling. I kept falling uncontrollably. Falling, landing, dying, falling. I no longer felt as if I had control of even my own body anymore. My world flickered on and off. It hurt. Dying hurt. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Alice, you had to deal with this. I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Again, I fell. I felt my body on the ground. With hazy eyes, I saw a familiar figure and heard it speak with a familiar voice as murmurs reached my ears from all around. Her face and her words, not a single thing I could make out. Before I even got the chance to see the rabbit, a growingly familiar sensation struck me. A pain, a sharp agony burned in my arms, till I suddenly could not feel my fingers. Then the same came to my legs. Chop chop, there they went. A limb or two or three or four. Off they went until suddenly I had none for myself. Soon a blade cut through my neck, soaring as it got stuck, and stabbing again and again, till the head finally came off, and I was falling again. Drowning through the flesh clogging my throat, as it all reattached, I came to a realization. Oh, I understood. Alice, what had you understood? I was done. I'd certainly gone mad. I couldn't handle this anymore. Even if I still wanted to go home, it wouldn't do me any good anyhow. Maybe this was a dream, an illusion. Just how long was I supposed to keep falling? Alice, you should never awaken from this dream. Then I was falling again. I decided to stop thinking. And only keep falling. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I opened my eyes to a courtroom with an air of fear. Watching, I was simply watching through another's eyes, sitting in the back of her head without a single meaningful thing in my mind. I was watching. She stood in the courtroom, arm thrust before her commandingly, a wild smile on her face. She wore a regal red dress, adorned with gold and black red ribbon. Her hair was blonde, her skin was pale. But her eyes were red, and certainly not blue. Behind her stood the white rabbit, ears quite straight, a mad grin on her face, with mad papers with mad scroll in her hand. Your Majesty. The body moved without me thinking to do anything. I no longer cared to do anything. The body talked without me thinking to say anything. I no longer cared to say anything. It didn't matter. If I could have, I would have stopped watching. It was not because the sights were horrific, because I no longer wanted to deal with anything and everything, not even the matters of the Red Queen. A dog, a cat, a bird, a girl, a boy, a person who was neither, a mother, a father, an elderly. One by one they came to be judged. Some begged, some cried, some fought, some silently accepted their fates. The rabbit read out their accursed crimes for show. The rabbit read out their accursed crimes for show, allowing for the Red Queen to proceed. However, there existed only one result: guilty. At some point, she began to laugh. At some point, I began to laugh. As a ruler, I have sovereignty over my citizens, and at the same time, a responsibility to make this kingdom prosper. A prosperous kingdom must have law and order. Do you understand? Off to the gallows. Be glad for mercy, criminal. Glory to Her Majesty for her benevolence. Cards, bring the next one for Her Majesty. So, yeah, the fact she's got cards for soldiers means that she's not... Well, they've merged the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts together. because I believe the Red Queen should have chess pieces for guards, not cards. The accused was reported by her brother-in-law for engaging in gossip and planning treason against the crown by speaking ill of Her Majesty. A simple sentence, a simple beheading for this bird. Bring her away. Guards. The accused was caught evading taxes. She was also seen stealing from upright citizens, assaulting merchants, and spreading rumors about Your Majesty's state of mind. She was only apprehended recently, as the cards were unable to capture her previously. Break her legs. Your Majesty is truly brilliant. As for her sentence, cut off her arms so that she can't commit crimes any longer when she reaches the afterlife, and throw her into prison to await execution by skinning. What will a cat rug look like without arms? A criminal's skin is much too rough for a good rug. Off with the cat. She seemed to think for a moment and snapped her fingers, rending the cat's arms from her body in an instant. And execute the cards who failed to catch her before. We have no need for worthless cards. Next. Next. The Red Queen. I didn't know if she was happy. While she convicted the accused, I inadvertently began to lose track of my surroundings, only to be jolted back by a particularly interesting sentence. Hello, Peter, and yes, a playful spank. You, talking about Astrid's spank from earlier. You're just lacking? The accused. Before the rabbit finished speaking, the accused rushed at the Red Queen. The Red Queen gestured with her hand. An unseen power slammed the criminal down to the ground, creating a crack on the marble flooring of the courtroom. Presumptuous. The force tore fingertip-sized meat piece by piece from the criminal, leaving it writhing on the floor as it rolled around trying to get her to stop. Have you forgotten who you belong to? The Red Queen finished once the criminal was ripped into a pile of red pulp on the ground to be swept away by the cards. I was smiling. The Red Queen was smiling. Next. The day in court continued until the courtroom was devoid of life. She walked on paperwork after court. Between stacks, she conversed with ministers who sweat nervously each time she met their beady eyes. Finishing up her important documents, she proceeded to go for a brisk walk and practice swinging a sword here and there. Bringing the Red Queen a towel and water, the rabbit asked if she wanted to visit the White Queen today, which the Red Queen decided against. Dinner time arrived soon enough. She sat in a large dining room at the head of a long table all alone. A sumptuous meal was served with red wine before her, but she had no one to share it with. The food tasted all right. More importantly, it had been poisoned. The chef used it just a little too much, so that the meat began to lose its charm and turn to mediocrity. The Red Queen called the chef over. His eyes darted around the room wildly, knowing he had nowhere to escape. His legs shook, and he fell to his knees, beginning to beg. The Red Queen took a sword from a decorative suit of armor in the room. Off with his head for daring to poison the Queen. Watching as the servants cleaned away the chef's remains, she returned to her meal, which had been quickly replaced. She, drank a sip of wine, poisoned wine. The next day, she returned to the courtroom. One by one, the numbers diminished again. Even those in the jury were not spared, if they made the slightest slight. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the names of criminals who were to be executed. Not a few times she took the job herself, an axe in hand and boots squelching in blood. The Red Queen enjoyed her judgment court. Wonderland was her domain, and its people her pieces. If they became disobedient, then she would never let them throw her possessions into disarray. Some days she didn't go, working on governance. Other days she did, working on her world's peace. These times continued until one day the Red Queen fell asleep when I was still fully awake. Curling my fingers, I discovered I was in control. I walked over to the balcony, seeing the ground terribly far away. I lifted myself over the balustrade and threw myself off. Air rushed past my face. Splat. Falling, falling, falling. I was falling again back through time. The interstice between different times and different worlds was still incomprehensible as before. My body knitted together from its mangled form, and I returned to Wonderland. Falling, I fell straight onto a table. Bam! I had returned to an iteration of the Hatter's place. Sprawled out on the table, I glanced upward and saw that familiar pair of mismatched eyes unfamiliar. She jumped, looking surprised. Do I know you? No, not quite. Could you get off the table? I do need to put down the tea and snacks at some point, if you understand. She smiled. The Hatter seemed different, as if a heavy weight had yet to settle on her shoulders. I got off the table and stood awkwardly around the familiar, unfamiliar place. The Hatter set down her teapot. She was preparing a tea party of sorts, causing me to realize that I had never seen her do setup, as things were always already on the table. What's your name? Alice. I'm Alice. You should be Hatter. Mm-hmm. She formed her lips into an O. Is there somewhere you needed to go so badly that you nearly broke my table? No, I've nowhere. Well, why don't you take a seat? No one uses the armchair over there. Much too armchair, they said. You know how armchairs are, right? She made a wide smile. I hesitantly approached my armchair. The chair looked newer than in my before. When I sat on it, I sank into the soft cushions. Even though it reminded me of a hammer through my skull, the chair did nothing wrong. I clutched my chest. You aren't having tea? What time is it? This person hated me. Perhaps she did not hate me yet in the moment that we were meeting now, but she hated me all the same in the future, in my present. I shouldn't have cared, but my heart hurt. The clock says 15 minutes before 4. It's almost tea time. Maybe it already is. I'm waiting for March and Dormouse, so it's surely not yet tea time. Tea time, after all, is just a state of mind. I see. You look sad, Alice. Do I? I raised my hand to my face, touching my cheek. I certainly was not smiling. What's your favorite tea? She retrieved a tea set, the place on the table, bringing not 3 cups but 4. 1 cup and saucer was put before me. I enjoy black tea. Recently I've grown fond of Earl Grey. What about you, Hatter? She winked. I like any tea, but I also rather like Earl Grey. I'm not sure why it's an Earl rather than a Count or a Duke, but I'm sure the tea tastes best in Earl. I've heard it's named after a minister. Or perhaps the minister was named after a tea. Fancy that. Your name is Grey, so Her Majesty tells you to become Earl Grey. The Hatter looked happier. A film of water built up over my vision, turning it blurry. I must have gotten something in my eyes. A hiccup bubbled up my throat. The water wouldn't stop. Though still smiling, she started to look worried. Why are you crying? Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hurriedly tried to wipe them away with my hands. The Hatter looked completely concerned now. Hick, hick. I really cannot explain. This is so odd. Awkwardly, she smiled. Eat cake. Do you like cake? Would you rather a sandwich or maybe something salty? If you're lacking in salt and sugar, you'll go a little crazy like that. She poured me a cup of tea and passed me some cake with a set of utensils she was just getting out. She gave a caring look. It tastes good. Drinking the tea and eating the cake, I noticed a much more amateurish flavor than my Hatter, the future Hatter, would make. However, it tasted good, and maybe it tasted happier. My shoulders shook up and down for a while. I cried for the longest time I had cried since I was a toddler, rubbing my eyes pink. Once my tears stopped, I cleared my throat and averted my eyes from the Hatter. Compliments to you, Hatter. The Hatter beamed. Why, thank you. We sat together in a peaceful silence for a while afterward, before she turned her head and exclaimed, There they are! Oh, and there they actually are. We finally get to see the March Hare and the Dormouse. A sleepy little mouse and a hare with a straw hat approached from the forest path. They looked just like the little puppets my Hatter wore often on her hands. Looking at me in curiosity, they took their seats at the table. A guest? Looks like a pest. Don't be rude, March. Three's already a crowd. No room, no room. Three's a crowd, but four's a party. If we get 5, well, then we can think about that later. Don't make a girl cry, March. This is Alice. This is March Hare. This is Dormouse. Hatter poured me some tea for both of them, and they began to chat, glancing towards me and tugging me into the conversation, even as their ramblings devolved into nonsense. Halfway through each topic, the Dormouse seemed to snooze off and dip her little nose into her tea by accident. Did Hatter make you cry, Alice? She's a lady killer, she is. I've always known it. Dormouse, wake up for the gossip. I'm right here, March. She looks like butter. It's the yellow hair. Butter. She looks a little silly, like her brain's all churned up, but she looks like good butter. I couldn't help but crack a slight smile at their antics. More sunny than buttery. You want butter, Alice? No, thank you. I'm quite all right. At a sigh. Psst, psst, Alice. The March Hare and Dormouse pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Hatter seems to fancy you. Not so directly. Don't raise your voice. Dormouse, shush. It's usually my line, March. You can't own lines, now can you? March is right that Hatter looks fondly upon you. You do seem nice. Kinda dumb. She seems nice. I still approve. I'm just saying, alright? Be kind to Hatter. Be good to our Hatter. We can't be around we can't be around her forever, so you have to promise this, Alice. I have a feeling that this is very important. Swear it on a stick of holy butter. I won't be here for very long, but no, I'll promise it. I'll swear on everything that could ever be precious to me, that I'll treat her well if we meet again. And she's back to bed. Dormouse. We returned to the Hatter. The 4 of us continued chatting over tea. I enjoyed tea time today. I really did. Yet, I didn't belong here. I didn't deserve here either. I knew that my presence would just throw everything into disarray. Finishing my tea, I stopped the Hatter from refilling my cup. The Hatter shaped her mouth into a surprised "oh." I had a wonderful time today. I have to leave. This place isn't mine. But thank you for the tea again, Hatter. And you too, March, Dormouse. The Hatter smiled. It was nice meeting you, Alice. I already knew you from the future, but I was so happy to see you. Hatter, it was a shame that my Hatter didn't feel the same. Alice, what did you feel for the Hatter? Something precious. The Hatter winked her cheeky grin. See you later. I wanted her to be happy. Auf Wiedersehen. Giving her a weak wave, I left the happier Hatter. I didn't particularly have a place to go. Home. That was no longer my goal. Walking away, I wiped away the tears that welled up again. Eventually, I was falling again. I died. That much I understood. However, I seemed to have forgotten how I died this last time. In a way, I knew that I couldn't keep doing this. Alice, this was your last iteration. The power letting you keep falling had already run out. Next time, you wouldn't come back to Wonderland in any time. As my body pieced itself back into place, I waited for myself to stop falling. I burst back into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and cut my fingers on their blades. Above me, the sky was terribly blue. No matter who I was, the world would move on without me. However, people could not so simply move on. Be it a matter of hate, or a matter of love, or just a matter of apathy, the connections people had were difficult to sever. Before I realized it, a certain person had settled into my heart. I want to see Hatter. My Hatter. Alice, you really are no good. No, It's better to say that I really am no good. I had already fallen for that Mad Hatter. She wormed her way into my heart unintentionally, as she threw me on a wild duck chase for the Red Queen's dismembered parts in her revenge. I wondered how she felt, now that she had her goal fulfilled. The final look on her face that I saw before I died was painful. It was painful not because of the crushing of my skull, but because of the constriction of my heart as I looked at her. A strange girl, a lonely girl, ultimately a terribly kind girl who was stumbling along a bloody path. That was who the Hatter was. I'm sorry. I pushed myself up. Useless Alice had a want, not one of obligation, not one of what should be, because really, had I really wanted to go home? Not one that tutors or anyone had forced upon her. I went to find the Hatter. I started walking. I started running. Down that forest path once more. There she was, all by her lonesome. The bags under her eyes had not lightened at all, and she listlessly played with the rim of a teacup until she suddenly saw me. She frowned deeply. Why? She harshly stood up. Why did you come back? She became enraged. Why can't you just disappear? Grabbing a plate off the table, ignoring the pastry atop it, she chucked it at me. Smash! The plate brushed me and shattered on the ground, leaving a mangled lump of sweets and porcelain. Alice! Alice! She slammed the table, originally forcing her hands down with great momentum, before suddenly slowing it down as she smacked it. Wincing, the Hatter let out a pained, guttural noise. Why are you like this? I hate you, Alice. She clutched her chest and glared at me with murky, watery eyes. Why are you like this? I had no answer. She had a conflicted, wobbly frown. You're contradictorily cruel and kind. You're messed up, Alice. Just choose one thing to be, you heartless woman. I like you, but I also hate you. I also liked her. I loved her. She became enraged. You're a useless freeloader who just comes to bother me. A waste of space. She became flustered. You're Alice, who always accompanies me and extends a hand to me. The Hatter began to cry. You're the Red Queen, monster, killer. I hate you. She yelled as she cried, furious tears running down her cheeks. Why couldn't you have just properly died? I killed you. You're the same thing as the Red Queen. You shouldn't have come back. She picked up a teacup and threw it at me, smashing me right in the forehead. I stumbled back. Hot tea spilled down me, mixing with the blood that came from the simple flesh wound. The cup itself shattered into tiny pieces on the ground. Go away! She grabbed the bloody hammer off the table and flung it, missing me by a far margin. It whooshed through the air, spinning, and lodged itself deeply into a tree behind me. My blood was still on the metal face. Tell me who you're supposed to be. I'm Alice. I'm Alice. The Hatter raised her brows. The Red Queen and I are one and the same, but I am Alice. Her essence is intertwined with mine, but I am me and me alone. I'm scared of the idea that we could become the same. I never want to become someone like her. An empty heart, an empty life. Even as she lashes out to the rest of the world, she's still empty. Admittedly, I'm also no good. I'm a heartless person who hurts others as well, but I hold just two certainties. I am Alice. Alice is me. And for the I who am Alice, you are the person who took my heart. Is it okay to say I'm Alice? I nervously fiddled with my fingers behind my back, looking at the Hatter as my heart raced. I couldn't read her expression behind those mismatched eyes. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, opening her mouth time and time again. She seemed to have trouble finding her words. I like the Alice who was Alice. The Red Queen scares me, but if you would let me believe it, I want to believe that you are Alice. She made a tired frown, brows furrowed, upset. Ever since March and Dormouse left me, time has stopped at tea time like a curse. I'm tired of tea. She cried out. Is my life just for revenge on the Red Queen? She looked up at the sky as if lost. The Red Queen is dead. Deliberately mouthing the words slowly again, she seemed to convince herself of that reality. Then she looked back toward me. She gave me a somber smile. Alice, you are Alice. That smile disappeared as quickly as it came. She looked flustered now. Her voice grew small and she gazed downward to her feet. I hurt you. I know. I extended a hand toward her. She who was all alone, she who stood so close yet so far away. I wanted for her to take my hand. We were both problem children. Perhaps I was a little mad. She slowly walked before me, looking at my hand as if seeing something foreign. She raised her brows a bit. Lifting her arm up, she reached out her hand shakingly. Her fingers trembled and hovered over my hands. For a moment, she retracted her hand. Then she placed her hand in mine. I love you, Hatter. Alice. She stared at me, trying to ascertain the truth of my words. With a deep, shaky breath, she gave me her response. She smiled. I love you too. Would you accompany me for a dance, give me a kiss, and make me happy? She asked of me just 3 things. I can't make you happy. I wished that I could fulfill all 3 of her requests. A physical item or a physical deed, those I could easily accomplish. But one of her heart, I knew not if I could. I don't know if we can make each other happy, but... I placed a kiss upon her lips. She frowned. That's fine. Even if I have no ability to promise such things, I want to let you be happy. You are my dearest, precious person. The Hatter smiled somberly. I want you to be happy, Alice. That makes me happy. She looked at me fondly. Not just like this. More so. Hatters wear sneakers? I took her hand and we danced upon the table. Spinning about, our feet tangled with the tablecloth, and tea sets strewn about. She pulled her hat off for a moment. We looked at each other with sad smiles. Hatter, if the world were to end tomorrow, what would you do? I have nothing left for me here, Alice, so I suppose I would do nothing. You're still right here with me, aren't you? She was so light. I wish I could show you my world. It's not a particularly spectacular world. Rather, it's utterly unfantastical. Yet, there were things that I liked. Maybe my siblings, or better, the 2 cats, if you care for cats at all. I would have liked that. I pulled her along, leading the mad dance. With no music, we moved to the erratic tempo of our hearts together. Alice. Why did you fall in love with me? Maybe it was just fate. Maybe it was just luck. Meeting you time and time again here, I grew fonder and fonder of you. At first, I simply thought that you were lonely. But eventually, I fell in love with your heart. Love. I've never known about love before. I'm not sure if I can truly explain why my heart beats as it does for you, Hatter. Even that aside, you're cute. You can cook and sew and brew good tea. You're warm. You're actually rather kind. What about you to me? I should ask that to you instead. Happiness. Probably we had no such fate, but we wish for it. Finally, we fell. Falling, falling, falling. We were falling. Down this rabbit hole, with no start nor end, we were falling together. I knew not where we would fall, for there were no more wonderlands for us to fall to. That world we just fell from had been the very last iteration. I embraced the Hatter and closed my eyes. How warm she was, the person who I treasured. I only asked for a world where we could be happy together. Surely we would meet again in a land much more wonderful than this. Somewhere, sometime. Surely. Well then, I guess that was Who is the Red Queen. Alice ending. Thank you for playing. We got the Alice ending. That's interesting. Not the Hatter ending, the Alice ending. How do I... Oh, there we go. Script scene, 61%. We've still missed half the game so far. We got some deaths in there that we know that we haven't gotten. But I do wonder about that stuff. What other stuff we haven't seen? But I think that can wait for next Sunday. So we will be making this at least a two-parter. We will be returning to this next Sunday.